Welcome to the program, everyone. My name is Brian Craig, and this, of course, is where MAGA comes to talk. We got a lot to cover today. The Pope passed away just a bit ago. We will talk about that a little bit, but the main story today is what you see in the title and the thumbnail of this video. There is a major deep state move against both Pam Bondi and Pete Hegseth. And I'm going to cover that today and talk about it in detail. And a lot of things happened over the weekend, too, that we're going to cover. So stand by. And if you'd like to call in about these things, you're certainly welcome. The number is pinned in the live chat. All right, stand by. Here we go. Well, welcome to the program, everyone. My name is Brian Craig. You are listening to Florida's longest-running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977, celebrating 48 years on the radio. It's Monday morning, a MAGA Monday morning, and we've got a lot to cover. The fake news media, the deep state, and the Republican establishment made a big mistake with their timing today. We're going to talk about that in just a bit. Now, of course, Pope Francis passed away early this morning, just within the last couple of hours. Pope Francis passed away, and I'm going to tell you right out the box, and this is not because I am Catholic, okay? I am Catholic. I've been Catholic, 10, 15 years or so. My wife and I converted to Catholicism years ago. But I am not going to be criticizing the Pope at all, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm Catholic. A lot of people that have shows like this will be saying a lot of negative things about Pope Francis. The Pope just passed away a couple hours ago. His body is still warm. Who says terrible things about someone who just passed away, right? Like that. It's classless and it's inappropriate, so I won't be doing it. So far as the Pope passing, it's a terrible thing, and we're all sorry to see him pass away. However, it's not one of those type of stories at this point that lends itself to a discussion on a program like this. I mean, what do you say? He passed away, and we're very sorry he passed away, the Pope. Where do you go from that? Now, there was a fake news story over the weekend about the Pope. The media should be disgusted, but they have no soul, the fake news media. They had a fake story that the Pope had snubbed J.D. Vance. Completely not true. J.D. Vance met with the Pope just yesterday. Okay, he didn't snub J.D. Vance, but I did see he did look out of it, the Pope. I saw it yesterday. And the bishops and the priests around him were doing all the talking, and he was just sitting there, and he did not look well. But the Pope did pass away. Now, there may be controversy when they name a new Pope, right? When they elect a new Pope, there may be a controversy with them, depending on who they pick. I don't have a real favorite. I used to hope that they would pick Cardinal Dolan out of New York, but I can't imagine them ever having an American Pope, although I think that'd be a pretty cool thing. But Cardinal Dolan said some things a couple weeks ago that were shocking and disturbing to me. So I'm not as big of a fan of Cardinal Dolan now as I was like 3 weeks ago because of some things he said. But the passing of the Pope, other than saying he passed away and it's a terrible thing, where do you take that on a talk show like this? You don't. There's nowhere to really go with it. But no, I don't support criticizing someone who just passed away. That is, especially someone like the Pope. That's just a low-life thing to do, isn't it? Yeah, but a lot of people will today. And a lot of Protestants, they hate us Catholics. I don't know why. While I've only been a Catholic for about 10 or 15 years, I have never heard a negative word about any Protestant denomination in any Mass ever or inside anything I was involved in a Catholic church. The closest I ever heard, and this wasn't about Protestants, when Obamacare was being debated, the church, one of the Catholic churches I go to, on Sunday, we were in Mass, and they brought in the priest from Priests for Life, who talked about Catholicism and pro-life and what it means and all that. but I've never heard a negative word about any Protestant denomination in any Catholic church setting I've ever been in. But I certainly hear a lot of Protestants badmouth Catholics all the time for some bizarre reason. But no, it's sad to see the Pope pass away. And, hopefully the next Pope, which they'll have soon, will be a good guy. I don't know. I don't follow all the cardinals. So, I don't know who's in line, but it will be whoever it will be. And then we'll talk about it then, maybe, if the person has some controversy. But the mainstream media, the deep state, or I should say the fake news media, the deep state and the Republican establishment, they are really making a move against Pete Hegseth and Pam Bondi. But their main focus is on Pete Hegseth. And their focus on Pete Hegseth is for a couple of reasons. The main reason, of course, is the military-industrial complex. Pete Hegseth is cooperating with Elon Musk at Doge, and a lot of these ridiculous military contracts are history. Okay, that's it. Okay, and that's the primary thing, because the military-industrial complex control over the United States government since the end of the Second World War has been insanely out of control. They should have no power at all, but they have so much of the power. I mean, second only to China, right? Military-industrial complex and the CCP basically have all the establishment politicians on the take. So, and some of them are on the take with both. So they want Pete out. The other thing they want with Pete Hegseth, they want him out, is the Trump cabinet, the Trump administration is tight, man. It is a tight administration. They're loyal to America, they're loyal to MAGA, and they're loyal to President Trump. And there's no leaks coming out. In fact, Pete Hegseth just fired a whole bunch of leakers that were people working very close with him, including people that he had brought in himself, that he had been friends with for years. And you're telling me that a couple of days after the leakers are fired by Pete Hegseth, and they should be arrested, all of a sudden they're bringing other controversy and the signal chat back and doing a push to get him out. When I woke up this morning, I got out of bed at 2 a.m. and I started doing my show prep after I took a shower. So about 2:15, I start my show prep. And in all the mainstream media, the lead story was fake Pete Hegseth scandals to get rid of him. And then, a couple hours later, the Pope passed away and pushed those stories down. And now the Pope story is the lead story everywhere. But they get rid of the leakers, and then a couple days later, they're pushing for Pete Hegseth out with fake scandals again. That's not a coincidence. There's no leaking in this White House. The first Trump administration, the cabinet was filled with leakers and saboteurs. And they don't have either now. And they just fired, how many leakers did Pete Hegseth fire? 2, 3, 4? I don't know. I lost track. A whole bunch. Okay? So they want him out. And they want Pete Hegseth replaced with someone from the Republican establishment. Their first choice would be Nikki Haley. With her man hands and her immorality of having sex with men other than her husband in the family vehicle parked in parking lots behind bars and restaurants and even in her government office when she was in state government. I mean, she's a lowlife. But she's owned by the military-industrial complex, and she loves total war everywhere. So they really want her in there. Their second choice would be DeSantis, but I'm sure they have a line of people they'd like to push on Trump to be the defense secretary, who one would be leaking and also sabotaging everything he does. I mean, look what Pete Hegseth did. He renamed all the bases back to their original names. And he did it in a way they couldn't contest by finding other service personnel with those same names, like Fort Bragg as an example. Okay? And so that's what they're doing with him. There's also a big move to get rid of Pam Bondi. And this one is a little more undercover. Social media is filled with so-called MAGA people. They got all kinds of things going on. That Pam Bondi and Kash Patel should be fired. And there's a new meme that they started with Pam Bondi that I saw this morning. There's this new thing on social media of there's some meme generator where you can make action figures of people. Any of you seen these? And they have the Pam Bondi action figure. And it's a bubble wrap, you know, like the old action figures of the 70s and 80s during the Star Wars era. And each of them have accessories, and the accessories are where the jokes come in. So in the Pam Bondi action figure meme, there's like 3 or 4 accessories. The first one's the Epstein files, and they have this little thin paper-looking thing. And then the other ones are arrest, and they're empty. Okay? And there's a big push on social media to fire Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. Now, first of all, this is I don't trust these trending things about firing Pam Bondi and Kash Patel at all. I think it's a plot by the Never Trumpers and the establishment and the usual suspects of lowlives. Okay, you know, Dan Bongino has posted twice on his X that if you're on hold, stand by. We'll start taking calls after the first break. Okay. We're up against the break now, but I want to finish this before we take the first break. But I just don't trust these people. You know, Dan Bongino posted on Twitter twice since he's been deputy director of the FBI. He says just because you don't see things happening doesn't mean they're not, and there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. And I believe that Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino are doing major investigations of the lawfare people. Now, they're not doing it publicly because there's no leaks coming out of this White House or Justice Department. But the people that are being questioned, the people that are being interviewed, the people that are being hauled in front of grand juries to testify, and those being investigated know because their friends and family have been interviewed or questioned about them. And maybe they've even been questioned themselves. So they're networking. So they're doing a push to get rid of Kash Patel and Pam Bondi to try to stop these investigations that are going on with them. Here's the deal. Pam Bondi stands by Pete Hegseth and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. So you should. Okay? Now, if one of them resigns or President Trump fires someone, that's a different story. But President Trump picked these people, and he's standing strong by Pete Hegseth, Pam Bondi, and Kash Patel. So you should too. Don't fall for this fake news establishment garbage that's going on. All right, now we're going to take our first break of the week. My name's Brian Craig. You're listening to The Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest-running radio show. If you're on hold, hang in there. We'll go to the phones after the break. Our number is toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call no matter where you're listening, 888-465-2631. We'll be right back. Mm-hmm. This is a radio station break. If you're on hold, hang in there. If you'd like to call in, the number is pinned in the live chat. You're welcome to call in. It's toll-free no matter where you are watching. Yes, the Pope passed away. Oh, you saw me on Newsmax. Great. Thank you. Yes, it was on my back porch. It was a nice day. It was like 81, 82 degrees. The weather was nice. So I said, you know what? I'm going to set up on the back porch. And it was nice. I thought the back porch was nice to be on Newsmax. It's amazing that you can do these national interviews in places like that, isn't it? It's crazy. Yeah, that'll be, if it's not there yet, it will be on the Newsmax website. I'll take a look during the next break and see if it's there. I'll go grab my laptop and take a look. We'll be back in a minute. Stand by. William, thank you. You're right on the money, William Livingston. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show. Callers on hold, hang in there. Our number, 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. You're welcome to call in about anything I brought up so far. It's a toll-free call. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is John. I'm originally from Louisiana. I live out in the Rocky Mountains.
All right,
Good
well,
morning, Mr. Craig.
all right. What's on your mind, John, in the Rocky Mountains?
Well, I'm
boy.
a patriot to begin with. Ex-special forces, field agent for the CIA. And what just happened the last 4 years, I'm so glad. We was at war.
All right. Appreciate the call. All right. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Brian from New York.
Hey, Brian in New York. What's on your mind?
I think this Pete Hegseth issue here exposes kind of some clear hypocrisy, in my opinion, from what we're hearing from a lot of the right wingers. And I just wanted to talk to you about that.
Who's showing hypocrisy?
I think most right wingers here. I mean, I don't want to subscribe to you and your beliefs.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to subscribe anything to you.
All right. Yeah, let me make your case.
Okay. I don't want to subscribe anything to you or your beliefs, but I think that, specifically I remember the Maryland bridge incident happening, and, apparently there were, black people involved in that situation, and I kept hearing that, this is a DEI problem or whatever. I can't imagine a world where a black woman, for example, does what Pete Hegseth has done, now multiple times, and you people don't expose that as a DEI issue. It seems like we're letting him off the hook. I mean, you should be calling for his job.
Okay, hold on. Well, this is where I'm confused. What has Pete Hegseth done that's problematic?
Are you joking?
Tell me.
Are we being serious right now?
You're comparing Pete Hegseth's actions to a shipping accident that brought down a bridge. So what has Pete Hegseth done that's wrong?
Yeah. So he's very clearly and very obviously lied about what was in the signal chats that he, shared with a journalist on accident. And then basically did a very similar thing to what Hillary Clinton did when everybody freaked out about that, as far as messaging people on a private app that was not government approved with, again, specific.
No, in fact, the director of the CIA, that part you just said at the end about the Signal app, not government approved. The CIA director said that when he first became CIA director a couple months ago, that the CIA downloaded the Signal app into his government-issued CIA phone.
That doesn't mean that you could just send whatever you want because you have the app.
They didn't send classified information, and they had there was a staffer who sabotaged that Signal chat. It was a private communication with senior Trump officials, and this one staffer brought in the journalist. You know this. This is widely reported. Totally fine. They were set up by that staffer.
That's totally fine. That's totally fine. You can't be discussing stuff like that in a Signal chat.
What did they discuss? What did they discuss that was classified?
Of course, absolutely. Specific times of specific strikes that were happening.
That's not what happened. In fact, President Trump even said there was no classified information shared in that Signal chat.
Oh, well, if President Trump said it, honestly, I apologize. I didn't know President Trump said something. If he said
I trust President Trump more than Brian from New York.
We know you trust we know you trust him with anything.
I trust President Trump with my life. I would trust him with my life.
I know, because you're a joke. It's totally fine.
I'm a joke?
There's very clear. Yes, you're a joke. Because like I said, if a black woman ever did this, you people would be jumping down their throat to not have a good faith discussion about this. mean, to have a good faith discussion about this, you need to call for his job. It's very simple.
Why?
Him and all the people that were in that chat.
Why should we call for his job?
Simple.
He's done nothing wrong.
Are you, bro, he lied about what was the details of those things. He said we didn't send specific information.
There was not classified, like right now, if you went to my phone, there's a couple of group chats going on. There's that I was invited into, I've commented on. People are talking about all kinds of things. I don't know what they're talking about all the time just because I'm in a group chat. Some of these group chats have been going on for weeks and months that I'm in.
Are you the Secretary of Defense, you moron?
Oh, nice language. Why are you calling me names?
Are you the Secretary of Defense, you fucking idiot?
Oh, there we go. All right, Mike. First dump of the week. If you're on hold, hang in there. We have to wait for the delay to re-engage. First dump of the week. There we go. That's, you know what that is when liberal callers do that? It's an SOS. Right? When they don't have anywhere to go, they have talking points, right? And talking points really aren't designed for a prolonged discussion. So when they run out of talking points and it doesn't work like they imagined, they drop some language, forcing me to discontinue the call. So it's a lifeline that they use. But it gives me an opportunity to talk about Dr. Philip Appleton and his laser away pain treatment. It's amazing, you guys. I've been talking about Dr. Appleton for over 2 years. He's rid me of pain 7 times. 3 times in my shoulders. I've had 3 shoulder injuries from accidents and falls, and he's treated me, boom, my shoulders are back to normal. And I can lift, I can do anything. I am pain-free in my shoulders. He rid me of arthritis pain in my finger. He rid me of over 20 years, over 25 years of pain in my right knee. Gone. Boom. That was the first pain he rid me of, was my knee pain. And I had that pain since I was 20, 21 years old. And it was the worst during the rainy hurricane seasons here in Florida. It just hurt, and it hurt a lot. But not anymore. I'm completely pain-free. In fact, it hurt so bad that back before I met Dr. Appleton, I used to keep a chair next to me when I was on the air on my left side, and I would lean on it so I didn't have to put weight on my right knee during the show because I was in so much pain. And I know many of you in this audience are now pain-free as well, thanks to Dr. Philip Appleton and his laser away pain treatment. Dr. Appleton performs all the treatments himself, no assistant. He performs them all himself. There's no shots, no drugs, no surgery, no downtime. It's 100% painless. You don't even feel it when you're being treated. And the best part is it works. So give Dr. Appleton a call. Appointments are not necessary. Walk-ins are always welcome, even on Saturdays. Give Dr. Appleton a call and say bye-bye to your pain. 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. And online, AppletonCairo.com. All right, let's go back to the phones. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name's Ian. I'm calling from Hope Sound.
Ian in Hope Sound. What's up, man?
Hey, Brian. I wanted to talk a little bit about, like Pope St. Francis. And, you had mentioned that you had converted to Catholicism.
I'm a Catholic, yes. I became, yes. Ago. Yeah, about 15 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, and, my parents were raised Catholic, and, they actually converted to Christianity like when I was born, and I've been, raised Christian ever since. Awesome. And, Catholicism, especially with after like Easter weekend and what Jesus had done, 2,000 years ago, I kind of wanted to see your stance on, how you have to go to a priest to confess your sins in Catholicism when Jesus had, he had died and paid for your sins, and you can go to him to right your wrongs.
No, you can as a Catholic, you can still pray to Jesus and ask for forgiveness and do the Lord's Prayer and all of that. I've not been to confession in quite a while. You're supposed to go once a year, okay? But no, as Catholics, you can pray to Jesus and ask for forgiveness, and I do pretty much every day. Yeah, that we're not forbidden from doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I think what I'm trying to get at is like Catholicism has all these traditions and rules you have to follow, and
well, like what that you have? What's your beef with? Give me something that you don't like that you're supposed to do as Catholic, other than confession.
Like when they pray to Mary, it's almost like a form of idolatry.
Like is not a form of idolatry. No, I'll tell you where that comes from, okay? And, I've been Christian my whole life, okay? And when I was in college, I wasn't Catholic when I was in college. I took a class. It was a 2-semester course, The History of Christianity. Why do you think Catholics pray to Mary? And I'll tell you where it came from. Why do you think that is?
Because she was the Virgin, she.
Well, no, I'll tell you why.
His mother?
In the early church, in the early Christian church, right? And by the way, we only had the Catholic Church. When did Martin Luther separate, right? I forgot what year that was. But for most of the time of Christianity, we only had the Catholic Church. In the early church, like in the first centuries of the church, a lot of people started branching off. Okay, like there's different,
the Protestant Reformation.
No. This is before the Protestant Reformation. I'm talking about like 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th century kind of stuff. Okay, before there were Baptists and Lutherans and all that. And, so there were almost like denominations of the Catholic Church starting to form up in the early centuries of the church. And there were some Christians who actually started to say that Jesus was not a man who lived on earth. And some other, I'm giving you the short abbreviated version of this. So what the early Catholic Church did was start to focus on Mary, because they wanted to counter that, and they wanted to emphasize that Jesus was in fact born from Mary, born from a woman, and was a man who lived on the earth. And that's where that came from. It's not over worshiping Mary. It has nothing to do with it. It's about establishing that Jesus was born from Mary's womb and lived as a man on the earth. That's where that comes from. Okay. And I learned that while I was Christian. But before I was Catholic, when I was in college in a regular state university.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much really all that is.
Well, doesn't that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. But, I'm just kind of wondering why they put so much emphasis on Mary.
I just told you. Told you.
Yeah, but she was just a woman,
She wasn't just a woman. She was chosen by God to father Jesus. I think that makes her more than just a woman, don't you?
No.
Okay.
She was just a vessel.
Oh, really? Okay. Tell yourself that. All right. Listen, I'm late for the break, but I appreciate your call. Okay. If you're on hold, hang in there. We'll take our bottom of the hour break. It's 31 minutes after the hour. My name is Brian Craig. This is the Steve Kane Radio Show, Florida's longest running radio show. We're 4 minutes late for the break. We'll be right back. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but to you guys, but Well, you're never going to get through to people that are obsessed with Catholic hate. It's just, it's the way it is. It's sad. I wish it wasn't that way, guys. Okay. If you want to call in, the number is pinned in the live chat. Yep, yesterday was my birthday. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Let's see. Thank you, thank you. We'll be back in about 2 minutes. If you're on hold, hang in there. Yeah, if you're new, make sure that you subscribe. This is most definitely where MAGA comes to talk. Oh yeah, Trump is a Christian, no doubt about it. If you're on hold, hang in there. Perfect. 20 seconds, we'll be back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to the Steve Kane Radio Show, Florida's longest-running radio show. On the radio since 1977. Call us on hold standby. We covered a lot, and I imagine I might get a lot of the Catholic bashing today. I don't quite get that, but, you know, it's what it is. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Oh, okay. Oh, before we get back to the Pope and everything, I want to get some more details into this. If you're on hold, hang in there, because I really want to get into this deep state plot against both Pam Bondi and Pete Hegseth. This is in the New York Post, which, of course, is News Corp, which is Fox News. Here's their headline today. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared war plans and second signal chat. It says he sent details of the March attack in a second group chat that included his wife, brother, and lawyer. I don't know if they have, I don't know if this is true, if they have security clearances or not. Then here's a story in the Daily Mail. Now, these stories were the lead stories before the Pope passed early this morning, okay? And then they made the change. This is the Daily Mail. Full-blown meltdown. Pete Hegseth's former staffer and close ally reveals the full-blown meltdown inside the Pentagon. And I might get into some of the details of those stories as the show goes on, or I may not. I don't think it's important. I know this. Starting at the end of last week, Pete Hegseth fired some leakers. 2-3 days after he fires these leakers, all of a sudden they're pushing to get him out, which shows that I guess he got all the leakers. They don't have anybody else to do any leaking inside the Pentagon. So now they're making the move on him. You don't think that's a coincidence? He fires a bunch of leakers and then this is happening? Give me a break. The deep state, they want him out. They want Pam Bondi out. If Trump is supporting them, you should be supporting them. Now, if Trump fired them, it's another story. But Trump, if you can't trust Trump, you can trust no one. So I trust Trump. And you should too. All right, back to the phones we go. Our number 1-888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yes, this is David Wilkerson.
Yeah, just first names only are necessary. What's on your mind, David?
Well, I was just sharing in response to one of the gentlemen that I heard speaking last about the Catholic. So I hope it's not Catholic.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Well,
go ahead.
Catholic. Much love to all the Christian community. But I do believe that Mary was indeed significant, just not on the worship level of
Catholics do not worship Mary. That is not true. Catholics do not worship Mary. That is a Protestant urban legend. We do not worship Mary.
Right, so I'm not making the accusation. I was just stating the significance.
We also don't worship statues. We don't worship statues of saints. We don't do that either.
Right. But lastly, I just wanted to say I love your content. I'm a huge fan, big follower, and I hope you continue to do what you do, and God bless.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the call. Yeah, maybe some of you Protestants should go to some Catholic masses a few times, okay? And find out what really goes on in there. You're welcome to come. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Brian, this is Richie.
Hey, Richie.
I'd like to address the gentleman that cursed you out
from
New Jersey, the first caller.
No, that was the guy. That was Brian from New York. Brian from New York did that.
Oh, Brian from New York. I wonder if you were calling up Brian from Boca Raton on the radio and complaining about Secretary Austin when 13 military people lost their lives and about 30-something got maimed for life. And we had to beg our enemy, please give us safe passage out of an airport as we left with our tail between our legs and our planes with a bunch of people hanging all over.
And that's exactly what I was going to ask him until he dropped the language bomb, and we had to let him go.
Yeah, I just wonder if he called you.
You also left out all the brand new military equipment, including the new Apaches with our latest computer technology behind. Yeah.
Yeah, as we can watch parades of our enemy going around in our new equipment.
In fact, Austin, Secretary of Defense Austin, when he was done, the Taliban had the 4th largest air force in the world.
Right, and he also took off 2 weeks to get an operation on his prostate and let nobody know about it. He was absent. Nobody knew.
That's right.
Even the president, who didn't know what was
going on. He was AWOL. Could you imagine?
They didn't go after. Yeah, did they go after him then? I mean, that was a bigger. And by the way, Pete Hegseth might have mentioned that we were going to attack, but that was a pretty big area. There was no specific targets that were put on that thing. So, I mean, listen, the bottom
By the way,
line
it was all over the news that we were going to attack because they were attacking. It was all over the news.
Before we attacked. Attacked. He actually mimicked, they were just waiting for the time to happen. So he said, okay, it's on. If you're going to get him for that? I mean, this is ridiculous. And I want to say something about Catholics, okay? And I went to as a kid growing up, I actually went to a Protestant church. The problem with a lot of people, they look at the Pope, and I'm not talking about individually, and I feel sad that he passed away, but Catholics put everything into the Pope. He's the head of the church, and
no, he's not the head of the church. Jesus is the head of the church.
Yeah, and he's second in charge because Jesus, you don't pray directly to Jesus to ask him for your sins. You go directly to a priest and sit in a little box.
No, you can do both. You can do both.
Why would you go to a human being and pray, and tell him what you did wrong? That's what the difference is.
You can do both.
You don't have a direct line to God.
That's not true. That is not true. That's another Protestant urban legend. It's a tradition in the church to go to confession. You're supposed to go once a year, but I've not been for a long time.
And if you don't go, you can't receive communion. And the bottom line is that you can.
If you can receive communion if you're in communion with the church, which means agreeing with the church doctrine, which I do.
So in other words, without going to confessing your sins, you can go get communion Sunday?
Yes.
You could go without saying anything?
Yeah. Yes.
That's fine?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't
a lot of the things,
listen,
a lot of the things you hear about Catholics is fairy tales and make-believe. And, in a lot of Protestant churches, they preach hate against Catholics. I don't know why. Well, no, I was at Calvary Chapel once. This was after I became a Catholic. I was at Calvary Chapel once, and Steve and I went over there for a service for something that I don't want to get into right now. And I was there early, so I went into the Calvary Chapel bookstore in Fort Lauderdale, and I'm looking through their books. They had a section on cults, and they had a book on. They had books on the Catholic Church in the cult section. I mean, give me a break. We're all Christians. We all accept Jesus. It's nonsense.
I'm going to say something to you. You just brought something up, and I have to tell you this: that the Jews, the Catholic Church was very, and you're going to say no, it's not true. During World War II, they were very anti-Semitic against Jews. There was a major rift
in Europe. Yes. In Europe,
so
where anti-Semitism was born. I mean, Europe's always been anti-Semitic, and
the Pope was behind all of that.
Yes.
So when you say cults, I mean the books were written about
Jews.
The bad guy that killed Jesus.
The Pope is a man. He's not Jesus. He's not God. He's a man. And men do what? And what do men do? And what do men do? They sin.
Yeah, but everybody's bending down and kissing rings. And
people get excited over celebrities. The Pope, what the Pope really is the Bishop of Rome. That's what the Pope really is, the Bishop of Rome. Okay? And it's turned into this royal thing and ceremonial thing. Yeah, but he's just the Bishop of Rome.
My father said, listen, when the first Pope went through Israel and he was in the bubble, my father was alive at the time.
Oh, John,
around 1971, I think.
They didn't have the bubble until after John Paul got shot by that Muslim.
Well, okay, he might have been, but he said, my father said this, and he was Jewish. My mother was Catholic. My father said when Jesus went through that, he was in rags. The Pope is covered in gold with gold everywhere. I mean, so the difference is that man has turned it into a business. And the Catholic Church is the most biggest business I've ever seen in my life.
Pope Francis was one of the most charitable people ever. In fact, when he first became Pope, he would put on priest clothes and go out in Rome and help the poor. He'd go undercover. And he did it when he was a cardinal in Rome too.
I know that. But what I'm trying to say that for the whole the gold and all of statues and everything. If you go if you go to Rome, all those statues and the gold and all that, what those things are artifacts of Western civilization, right? The Sistine Chapel, all of that stuff. South America.
What about it?
How about in South America? In South America and Central America, those churches are full of gold and the people are hungry. I mean, this has been going on for years.
The church the Catholic Church does a lot. I don't agree with everything the Catholic Church does, but what church do you agree with?
They let a lot of people into this country.
What
Catholic charities are a big con job.
Well,
come on,
there are in every church, Catholicism is not a denomination like Baptist or Methodist, so don't misunderstand what I'm saying.
No.
But if you go through any of the Protestant denominations in the United States, every denomination, the Baptist, the Methodist, all of them, they have a liberal and a conservative wing. That's why you got Southern Baptists are the conservatives. And the same is true with every denomination. So the Catholic Church, there are more Catholics in America than all the denominations, Protestant denominations out there. So when you have an organization that's that big, you're going to have some liberal loons in it.
Yeah, but Catholic charities have been indirectly...
The Catholic charities are communist.
Invasion of this country.
The Catholic charities are communist activists. They're not real Catholics. They are communist.
You agree with that?
It's a front group for the communists. Yeah. All right, Richie, I'm late for the break again. All right, we'll be right back. Okay, if you're on hold, hang in there. We'll be back in 1 minute. If you're on hold, hang in there. If you want to call in, the number is pinned in the live chat. Seconds. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to Florida's longest-running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977. Our number is toll-free, 1-888-465-2631, 888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call, no matter where you're calling from. Now, you could see by the calls today, I could do an easy show, on the death of the Pope. Here's the thing, okay? Not all Protestants, but a lot of, and again, I've been Christian my whole life. I've only been Catholic 10 or 15 years. The reason we became Catholic is my wife and I, we lived in Plantation, Florida. And we were very active in a church there. It was a Methodist church, Plantation United Methodist Church in Plantation. The church is still there. And then we moved to Palm Beach County, and we spent a year or more looking for a church. And we tried them all. And we thought we found one. We were going to this, we tried all the churches, I got to tell you. We went to non-denominational churches. We went to Baptist churches. We went to a Methodist church here, and we just couldn't find a church that we were liked. I mean, where there was some community, where there was a connection, where we thought we could be active. And when we were going to the Methodist church in Plantation, we were there almost every night of the week, going to some group meeting, sometimes together. There were men's clubs, women's clubs. I did the sound during church services, even funerals. I did the sound during funerals and all. We were very active. I used my radio skills to help the church, and our daughter went to summer camp there, but it was far away. We moved away, and we thought we found a church, an Episcopal church, and it was, oh great, they got a youth group there. Our daughter can get involved, and then the youth pastor. I'm doing my show prep in the morning. And the youth pastor got arrested in a men's room in North Carolina soliciting sex from a male undercover officer. So we got to get out of there. We can't go there anymore because, those guys travel in cells. So it was a Saturday. We were just driving to the mall, and we heard these church bells. It was like, oh, there's church down the street there. I never seen it. We went there. We pulled up. It was a Catholic church. I had never been inside a Catholic church before. I don't remember if my wife had or not, but my wife and I and our daughter, who was really young at the time, we went in for a Saturday afternoon service, and we connected immediately with them. And we made the decision right then and there to become Catholic. Now, the second week, I like going to Mass on Saturdays, okay? It's not as crowded, But the next Saturday, they did this thing where I don't know what it was for, but they had these four guys from, and they walked through carrying this thing on their shoulders, and it looked like a scene out of a movie. And I told I said, if we'd have come this week, I wouldn't I would not have understood what was going on. I would, but we became Catholics right then. And, it's really not that different than a Protestant church. It's just a couple things happen, okay? A lot of people that go to Protestant churches, in particular non-denominational churches, hear a very anti-Catholic message from pastors. I've seen it myself in Mass. I don't know why they do that, but there's a lot of Catholic bashing that goes on inside a lot of Protestant churches. The Baptist, right? They won't even let Catholics go to the Baptist colleges, which is strange to me. Years ago, I was thinking about getting a master's degree online, and I looked at the Baptist college, and Catholics not allowed. Every other denomination, they probably don't let Mormons either, but every denomination I looked on the list was fine, just no, and it very specifically said no Catholics. Like, what's that about? So I don't know why that goes on. So a lot of people hear a lot of things about Catholics, like worshiping Mary or statues and stuff. None of that is true. We do pray to Jesus. So, I'm not the best defender of the Catholic Church or of Christianity in general, because I don't read the Bible like you're supposed to, and I don't know the Bible inside and out, and it's not my area of expertise. That's one of the reasons I don't talk about it a lot, but I have always been Christian. I accept Jesus as my Savior. And, so far as Christians, we're all on the same team, man. We all accept and believe in Jesus and all that goes along with it. That's why yesterday is the biggest holiday in the world, Easter. It's bigger than Christmas, right? It's a global holiday. And that's because we all accept, those of us that are Christians, accept Jesus. And that's, so this conflict from the Middle Ages, to me, is insane. And it's just, and I don't call it bigotry or anything, because I think that most people that are Christian, that are Protestant, that have problems with Catholics, it's just something they hear and they just don't know any better. That's my opinion. Now, if you're on hold, hang in there. I want to talk about Jupiter Joe Thomas. You know, all this talk about the tariffs, the import taxes, he's going to be in later this week. We're going to talk about this. I know he has some things he wants to talk about, but there's some things I want to ask him about too. You know, people are panicked over their 401ks, over their stocks and all this. If you call up Joe Thomas and you get invested in annuities, that's something you'll never worry about again. Because with annuities, no matter what goes on in the stock market, your money, your nest egg, is safe. Okay? And you never have to worry about it. Whatever happens in the market, there could be a Great Depression tomorrow. If you're in annuities, you got nothing to worry about. Plus, with annuities, unlike these other things like 401ks, you're guaranteed income for the rest of your life. It's an amazing thing. And, you know, Joe Thomas, he's a top guy in the industry. He offers free phone consultations to our listeners, which you can take advantage of no matter where you are located in the United States. He'll talk to you, and he'll give you a custom proposal based on your situation and your goals. Okay, so give him a call. 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999. And if you missed the number, just go to his website, jupiterjoe.com. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's your favorite caller, Brian from Philly.
Okay.
Yeah, no, sorry about that. I called in, your hold system wasn't working. But anyway, you remember we were talking a couple of days ago. You remember that? We were talking about Fifth Amendment stuff?
Vaguely.
Yeah, so, I was just saying, I think it's weird that they didn't give that guy Garcia a hearing for the stuff they accused him of, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of sent him off.
I think it's weird. I think it's weird that I think it's weird that you use this phony accent like you're in a Jimmy Cagney movie in the 1930s. Why don't you talk normal with your real voice instead of like Jimmy Cagney?
I don't know, because you're just going to like talking about my accent. You're not really talking about
it's his fake accent that you think is
people not getting trials though.
Who did not get a trial?
Garcia.
No, Garcia went. Garcia went before 2 federal immigration judges who said deport him.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. There he's back to Jimmy Cagney. All right, 1 hour down, 2 to go. It's the Steve Kane Show. My name's Brian Craig. We'll be right back. Oh, my goodness. That was just enough time for that guy. I almost didn't take the call because there was only like 90 seconds left till the break, and I'm like, it's not really enough time for a call, but I think that was more than enough time for Jimmy Cagney. Next time see here. Not to attack Jimmy Cagney, because I like the Jimmy Cagney movies. They're very good. Yeah, see here? Yeah. Weirdo. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. We'll be back in just over a minute. If you're on hold, hang in there. 30 seconds. Welcome back, everyone. Hour number 2 has begun. It is Monday. I'm Brian Craig. You are listening to Florida's longest-running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977, celebrating 48 years on the radio. This is where MAGA comes to talk. All right, I'm not going to do any recapping. I brought up a lot in the first hour. I'm just going to go to the phones for now, but I'll do some recapping, and I got a bunch of other issues that I haven't even brought up yet that we've got to cover. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, no, we got cut off. That was weird. Anyway,
hold on, Jimmy Cagney. It's one. Slow down.
It seems like
it's one call. It's one.
I'm just saying, Brian. I'm just saying. This is all very.
I don't care what you're saying.
I mean?
It's one call per day. You had your one call. That's it. You can call tomorrow.
Oh man.
I know. Oh man. I'm sorry, Jimmy Cagney. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Scott. I'm calling from Kansas City. Didn't expect to get on so quick.
Well, you're on.
I'm on. Hey, I'll share a fond memory, and then I'll get to my question real quick here. I remember, was it Ritzenberger was his name? The Pope who came before and then abdicated? He, when he was named as Pope, on our NPR station, we had Jane Fonda, who just went spastic about how conservative he was.
Who are you talking about, Pope Benedict?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I make it a point. Okay. Oops, sorry about that. I hit the wrong line. I make it a point not to pay much attention to Jane Fonda.
Yeah. But
she's VC.
I just having her goat gouted was just a little fun to me. Just a little fun. Yeah. Anyhow, is there any the vote is supposed to be inspired. Is there any direction what they might go insofar as naming a pope?
I'm sure we'll start hearing that today and tomorrow. I don't follow all the bishops, so who knows? Who knows?
Oh, I remember you saying that. Yeah.
I mean, who follows the bishops? I mean, who knows who all these bishops are? I don't know. It'll be who it is, and then there may be a controversy with that.
Yeah, so that's where you would get the inclination as to what direction they might go.
Well, I don't pay attention to that. Like Pope Francis was pretty liberal, right, when it came to not just immigration, but he was into all the global warming scam and all that stuff. But he's not Jesus. These are just men.
Yeah, they're just men. I heard a lot of divisive stuff saying he was the woke pope and such like that. That's not my words. I'm just reporting.
But I never will criticize the pope. They'd have to do something really bad. I mean, I shouldn't say I would never criticize the pope. They'd have to do something pretty bad. But I don't really follow the popes that much or listen to their political ramblings. That's to me is not what Christianity and the Catholic Church are about.
Yeah, and most people don't know that the Pope is just the Bishop of Rome. That at the seat of a cathedral, only three entities can sit in that seat: the Archbishop, the Pope, and Jesus.
Yeah, and there's all this scandal with the church, the Catholic Church. I mean, look, the whole Protestant sect of Christianity was formed because Martin Luther wanted to have sex with a nun that he married, right? So it was his, so that's why he left the Catholic Church. I know they have some stories about indulgences and stuff. That's all BS, I mean, and look at the Church of England, which is the Episcopal Church in the United States is the Church of England. Henry VIII.
Yes.
Henry VIII wanted to get divorced. The Pope said no, so he started his own church. And then stole all the church land. right? Which the royal family still have today. So, all these man-made churches, whether it's the Baptist Church, the Church of England, or whatever, the Lutheran Church, whatever, the Methodist, whatever it is, these are all man-made churches, and there's always problems. And because men are sinful. That's why Jesus came, right? We're sinful. And I don't know why people hate Catholics so much that are Christians. We all accept Jesus, so we're on the same team. And we shouldn't be bashing other Christians. You don't hear me. I mean,
and not too long ago, I even heard that I heard on a live broadcast that somebody said, and in an authority position, that Catholics are not really a Christian church. And I thought,
nonsense.
Oh my gosh,
it is the church.
That's crazy.
And the Catholic Church is not a Christian denomination. It is Christianity.
Okay, well,
it's not a denomination.
For educational purposes, I'm glad you made that point.
Yeah. All right, I appreciate the call. All right, take care. All right, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Conservative Doug.
Oh, hey, Doug.
Wow. So you mentioned earlier that the social media is making all these fake stories. I was on Facebook Marketplace, and the first thing I see is Cash Patel is out. Then the next time I go on, I see that J.D. Vance steps down. These people, man, oh man, and that person who called that you had to dump. They won't believe in this stuff. And as soon as I saw it, I said, get out of here. That's ridiculous. But there they are. They're trying, and there's certain people that believe this crap.
Pete Hegseth got rid of at least 3 leakers in his immediate circle. And then this fourth guy resigned. So I guess he was afraid he was going to be next. And so you're telling me 2 days after he gets rid of all these leakers, all of a sudden, there's all this Pete Hegseth scandal? It shows you how airtight the Trump administration is. Appreciate the call, Doug. Give me a break. If you're with Trump, you support his cabinet. It's one and the same. All right, let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Jeff from Maine, Brian.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, I woke up at 2:30 this morning. About 3, I was watching Pam Bondi's, it was really a speech, but she was live on TV. It was a rerun of her going down about how boys and men will not be in bathroom, locker rooms, and sports, and how these girls work their whole life to have their careers destroyed by some boy that wants to be a girl. And she lambasted all the media, and the governors are against this, and I cannot wait for her to stop prosecuting these people that are going to go against Title IX. This is a defining moment in U.S. history when President Trump signed that executive order. There are 2 genders God created, male and female, period. End of discussion.
Well, that's just science. But, we have women's sports for a reason, right? And you see the women are getting. I give you an example, okay? Before this transgender stuff happened, and you guys can Google this and look it up. The U.S. women's World Cup soccer team that was led by that purple-haired weirdo, okay? They lost a soccer game to a team of middle school boys. Middle school boys beat the women's World Cup team, okay? Led by that Patty LaPone, whatever her name was, Megan Rapone, okay? And, the reason we have women's sports is so they can have sports and compete. Not for a bunch of people with, what the transgendered athletes are, most of them, not all. Some of them are probably just want to be in the girls' locker room, right? But a lot of them, what most of them are cheaters. They can't make it in the boys' team, so they become the girls' teammates, and then all of a sudden they're making world records. They're cheaters. And it's disgusting.
Bruce Jenner was getting interviewed by some guy once, and he said, call me she, call me Caitlyn. And he says, I'm going to call you by your God-given name. And he says, if you don't, I'm going to punch you in the mouth. And the guy goes, oh, that's real ladylike. And, oh, my God, I laughed so loud. But you know what? If a man has his genitalia cut off, all removed, He's still a man.
Well, hold on.
And he's still stronger and better than women.
Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner. You know, it's a funny thing about this Bruce Caitlyn Jenner thing. When I was a kid growing up, right, it was after the, you know, because I was 5 during the 1976 Olympics, which is when Bruce Jenner won all the medals in the triathlon. Bruce Jenner was the definition of what it was, what a man was, right? All the way through the 80s. I mean, he was even on chips, you know, and
he was on Wheaties. Yeah,
it was on the Wheaties boxes and all this stuff. It was, I mean, Chips, the TV show. Larry Wilcox had a contract dispute. They brought him in. I mean, you know, he was this is what a man is Bruce. And now look, but we find out he was even cross-dressing back then in secret. But he has said, I've seen Caitlyn Jenner on Fox talk about this many times, said that what they're doing in sports is wrong. He's on the right side on this issue. He said, you know, if I would have, he said I was cross-dressing back in the 70s. He said, I won all those medals in 76. What if I came back in 1980? Now, in 1980, Carter boycotted the Olympics. They were in Moscow over the Russian invasion of Afghanistan. But he said, if I would have come back in 1980 as a woman and I would have won all the medals, would they have allowed that? Would that have been right? He said, no. You know, he said, I could have won all the women's medals in 1980. You know, so he's on. Bruce Caitlyn Jenner is on the.
You've got to give him. Give him credit for that.
Yeah, he's on the right side on this issue. So whoever that was giving him a hard time, I don't think people should be giving him Caitlyn Jenner a hard time on this because he's a voice of sanity in this. Believe it or not.
Wow, I didn't know that, Brian. I'm glad you told me that.
Yeah.
But men are men, women are women, boys are boys, girls are girls, and the insanity of the mainstream news media and the Democrat Party with the problems in America, it goes back to when they removed God from schools.
Yeah.
And all of this stuff has evolved from that.
Well, if you go to if you go to any of the communist countries, they're all atheist. They you know, communists, which is what the Democrats are.
That's right.
They want Christianity out of public life because there's a morality that is
real quick,
there's a morality from Christianity that interferes with their socialist agenda.
And the reason is they want to be God. They want to be the ones that make the decisions and say who lives and dies and all of that.
Right.
It's really a sick.
That's
it's a real. You know, no religion. I'll just say this last thing. What is the duty and purpose of religion? And the Bible gives a quote. It says to visit the widows and orphans and give to the poor. That's the duty of religion.
Yeah.
And
all right, Jeff, I'm late for the break.
Stuff to it.
But I got to appreciate the call, Jeff, from Maine. We'll be right back. If you're on hold, hang in there. If you're new, make sure that you subscribe. Okay. We'll be back in 1 minute, guys. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to the Steve Kane Radio Show, Florida's longest-running radio show on the radio since 1977. I'll take some more of these calls before we bring up anything new or recap. It is Monday, the Monday after Easter. Our number 1-888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning, Brian. I'm calling from New Orleans. My name's Ken.
Hey, Ken.
Hey, man, I just want to say about this Garcia trash from Venezuela. I mean, he's had due process twice already, which he shouldn't even have been awarded due process because he's not an American citizen. And I keep hearing the Democrats say, bring him home, a Maryland man, Maryland dad. He's not a Maryland man, and he is home.
Yes,
and
that's right.
The hills that the Democrats choose to die on is exactly why they lost the election. And if they keep I hope they keep choosing to die on these hills because they'll never win another election again.
Yeah, and David Hogg is becoming the voice and face of the Democrat Party. That's perfect, because he's one of the most unlikable people there is.
Yeah, and I would say from that caller earlier too.
Which
I
one?
also trust President Trump. The guy that I believe the idiot from New Jersey.
Oh yeah, Jimmy Cagney.
I also trust President Trump with my life as well. And even if that trash does come back to this country, he's going to be deported again immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand, why do they want this trash to come back to this country so badly? I don't get it.
Well, there's not a clear answer to it. I mean, a big part of it is Trump derangement syndrome, and they disagree with whatever Trump does. And this story here, if any of you ever read Bonfire of the Vanities or even saw the movie, they got behind this guy before they knew he beat up his wife a whole bunch of times, bloodied, okay? Before they knew he was really an MS-13. They made this guy a folk hero so quick, they didn't bother to vet him, and now they're married to him. So they got themselves in a real bad position. They backed the wrong guy. I mean, he's a human trafficker. He beats his wife bloody on at least 3 occasions. This is according to her. Black eyes, drew blood, punching her, ripped her clothes off, shoved her, hit her with a boot. All kinds of things. I mean, you kill somebody hitting them with a boot, especially if it's a work boot with a steel toe. He's got gang tats on his fingers. President Trump showed those over the weekend. So they hitched their whatever to this horse or whatever, however the saying is, and they messed up, and they can't admit they're wrong or walk it back now. That's a lot of it. So let him keep defending this wife beater.
Yeah, and I want to say this real quick, and then I'll get off. To this governor who goes to Venezuela and to all of these callers that want this guy and also want these illegals in this country so badly, let them come live with you.
Yeah.
Go to Venezuela, go get him from that prison, and let him come live in your house. Let him live with your family. You feed him. You give him transportation. If you love these illegals so much, let him come live with you.
Here's the thing.
House and your family.
Here's the
you
thing.
Pay for him.
I've been to South America. I've been to Latin America multiple times. Okay. Now, sometimes we go on our cruises, and that's cool because we're in tourist areas, right? But if you go outside the tourist areas, you're taking your life in your hands in Latin America. I don't know what it's really a sad thing because South and Central America have all the great resources that North America have. But there's just something about that culture that is third world and corrupt. And this is what happened with the Democrats. The Democrats, they lost the black vote, they lost the gay vote, they lost a lot of the white union vote, all that stuff. So what they were doing, President Trump won the majority of the Hispanic vote. So what they were doing was transporting a new population here to this country to cancel all of us out. And, you know, and this is a group that are peasants for the most part. Many of them are criminals. And they were just trying to change this country into a third world nation. I appreciate the call. And President Trump's reelection stopped that in their tracks. All right, well, let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, good morning, Brian. Happy Monday there.
Hey, Chris, what's
Chris
up? Chris in Pompano.
Well, 100%. Yeah, I love the your analogy on that because, yeah, you know, these leftists and the Trump derangement, their whole campaign for the next 4 years is anything negative, and of course, you know, towards President Trump and his cabinet, and you know, no matter what good they do, and they jumped on this situation because they thought it was something that could, you know, could get him smeared publicly or have a negative effect. And it's coming back to bite them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good for them. They're being told and sold. They're listening to the usual rhetoric from those who attach themselves to the Democrat Party. And it's really embarrassing.
And I'll tell you, the Democrat Party is about to implode over David Hogg. David Hogg is, he's going after James Carville and some of the others. He's going to win that. And I'll tell you how I know that. 2 reasons. One, during all this conflict with David Hogg, Donna Brazile, who managed Al Gore's campaign in 2000, and Donna Brazile is also a superdelegate at the Democrat convention, so she gets like a bunch of votes. Right? Donna Brazile was defending and praising David Hogg yesterday on television, and David Hogg is very well connected. His dad's a Fed, and he's connected to the establishment and deep state. You know, so David Hogg is going to win out against James Carville and the Democrat establishment, and he and AOC are going to become the leaders of that party in the next election cycle. It's going to be so destructive for them, which is a good thing because they'll lose more elections.
Well, absolutely, and what the last caller mentioned, you know, back actually from when Clinton got in office, they really, truly, without the help of Ross Perot, would not have ever won an election since then. And they saw that the 12 years of Reagan and Bush and said, you know what, we really have to get drastic. And they really divided.
Well, remember, you know, Ross Perot was a deep state actor to make Bill Clinton the president. I don't know what George H.W. Bush did, but he did something that alienated the establishment and the deep state. And because I told you, I found out about this about 2 years ago. I was watching a documentary about the Tonkin golf incident, and which was this, I'm not going to go through the whole story, but it's, you know, for those of you that don't know, it was a fake incident that was used by Johnson to get the Vietnam War all heated up, and with U.S. involvement. And Admiral Stockdale, who was Ross Perot's running mate, was the naval pilot that was involved in the Tonkin golf incident. He was the squadron commander. So he was deep state. And remember, Ross Perot was in, then he dropped out, then he was back in. It was all about making Bill Clinton president. And that year, Bill Clinton only got like 43% of the vote in the 92 election. Something like that. I remember because it was a 3-way race. I don't know what H.W. Bush did.
It was less than that.
It may have been in the 30s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like 37%.
It might have been.
You're right. It was 100%.
Yeah.
It was
So
only 37%.
So I don't know.
I believe 100% of the.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say 100% of those Perot votes were going to go to Bush, and so he would have won in the landslide.
So I don't know what Bush did to alienate the establishment and deep state, but they wanted Bill Clinton in, and Tucker Carlson interviewed the president of El Salvador, who says that Bill Clinton created MS-13. I might play some of that today on the program. Chris, I got to run. Thanks for the call. Great call. If you're on hold, stand by. The calls have been pretty good today, I must say, for a MAGA Monday. My name's Brian Craig. You're listening to The Steve Kane Show. If you're on hold, hang in there. Our number's toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. Coming up in the next segment, I'm going to do the message for Coastal Weight Loss Secret. I'm going to tell you how much weight I lost because I weighed myself yesterday and found out. So you'll hear for the first time how much weight I've lost. We'll be right back. If you're on hold, hang in there, guys. We'll be back shortly. Trump never said that. We'll be back shortly, guys. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. And if you're already sub, please like the video, if you don't mind. "20 seconds, we'll be back. If you're on hold, hang in there. I got a question for you guys to call me with. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show on the radio since 1977, celebrating 48 years on the radio. Callers on hold, stand by. I have a question. This is a serious question. I did a quick Google search during the break and could not find the answer to this question. Somebody in the YouTube live chat room, as we went into break, used a very often used Democrat talking point about the deportation of this wife beater to El Salvador. That the Trump administration admitted it was a mistake to deport him. Who in the Trump administration said that? And where can I find them saying it? Who in the Trump administration said it was a mistake, and where can I find them saying it? 1-888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
John from West Virginia. How you doing today?
All right, John. How are you?
Good. Hey, I just wanted to call in and just a point that I thought might be relevant is what did Clinton have against Bush? Right? Remember that?
No. What did Clinton have against Bush? You're talking about H.W. Bush or G.W. Bush?
George Bush.
The father?
President,
well, there were two George Bushes that were president. The father?
No, the son.
Well, I've heard George W. Bush, the son, right? Bush 43, say that he and Bill Clinton are brothers by another mother. I've heard him say that many times over the years.
Well, my point was that, do you remember when Donald Rumsfeld announced a $3 trillion missing funds?
No, I don't. I don't, but it wouldn't surprise. So what's the point of your call? We got a lot going on here.
That happened days before the 9/11 tragedies.
Oh, okay.
Days.
All right. Okay. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Dean from Megan Martin County.
D in MAGA, Martin County. What's up, Dean?
Hey, brother. Good morning. Hey, back when Obama was letting all the Somalians in, I said, you know what? He's trying to dilute the American voters' power. And it's true, because now you can't get rid of that Omar woman. They've got like 70,000 plus Somalians in that one district. You can't vote her out.
That's true.
Yeah, it worked. Obama brought in a bunch of illegals, and he diluted our power.
There he did. Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, you're right. In that instance, you're right. Absolutely. And they were trying to do that nationwide. Yes. But what President Trump and the Republicans are doing, and they're going to do this through legislation. It might be in the big beautiful bill. Even though states handle the elections, they're declaring federal elections under federal authority. So they're going to be passing a lot of laws that'll stop all this meddling. Hey, I appreciate the call. We got a bad connection from Martin County, but you're right on the money. All right. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's Joshua from Alabama.
Yeah. What's up?
I've got to answer to your who said it. Who said it was an error for deporting that fellow?
Yep.
It was a lawyer named Erez Revini, and that person has been fired.
Okay, so I don't know, some lawyer. Okay, so when I hear Trump, when I hear them say, and the question I asked that this guy's from Alabama is answering is this: the liberals have this talking point. The Trump administration admitted that the deportation of this wife beater was a mistake. So who said it? That when I think of the Trump administration, I think of Homan, Pete Hegseth, Bondi, Marco Rubio, the president, J.D. Vance, even Linda McMahon, I don't think about some lawyer whose name we don't know. I can't, you just told me his name and I forgot it already, right? So the Trump, and they fired that guy. So the Trump administration never said that. Some lawyer does not speak for the administration. That's like saying.
That is correct.
So the Trump administration never said that, is the point of this call.
Yes, it was just the lawyer that said it during oral back and forth with this judge.
Yeah.
And,
So it's another, appreciate the call. So it's another lying Democrat talking point. There you have it. Boy, we've had some great calls on the program today, haven't we? Now, I know we're talking about this replacement theory, which I believe is replacement fact. I pulled this up today. This tells you what the Democrats are all about. This is Senator Chris Murphy. He's on MSNBC talking to this Chris Hayes guy over on MSNBC, and he slips at the end. Listen.
Didn't have a path to citizenship. It was entirely on their terms in order to get Ukraine funding, right?
Well, I mean, Chris, that's been a failed play for 20 years. So you are right that has been the Democratic strategy for 30 years, maybe. And it has failed to deliver for the people we care about most, the undocumented Americans that are in this country.
Wow, did you hear what Chris Murphy said? Now, that was in February 2024, and I went and pulled that up today. He's saying the ones they care about the most are the illegals, really, more than the American people. Brief moment of honesty from a Democrat. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Jeff from Jacksonville.
Oh, Jacksonville, Florida. Welcome.
Welcome. Now, is he that Hilmar Garcia fellow, is he MS-13 or is he a wife beater?
He's both. He's both. He beats up his wife and he's MS-13. He's both.
Okay. All right.
Why do you ask?
Well, because yes, there was documentation that she had a restraining order on him at one time.
Well, yeah, it was an order of, it was a protective order, and his mother-in-law had it too. He beat her on at least 3 occasions with his fist. He drew blood. He blackened her eye. He ripped her clothes off. He scratched her. He shoved her, and he hit her with a boot. And he sometimes it was at home. At one time it was at a gas station. But he's also a member of MS-13. What's your thoughts? Is he where he belongs in El Salvador?
Yeah, he should have been deported if he's here illegally. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's
safe. He entered this country illegally.
I'll tell you this.
And if he's and if it was proven that he was a member of the MS-13,
it was proven. He's got MS-13 tattoos on his fingers. That's a confession. Who has MS-13 tattoos on their fingers? MS-13 members.
Yes, yeah.
But I'll tell you this. You're calling from Jacksonville, Florida. El Salvador is safer than the streets of Jacksonville, Florida at night.
Yes, well, Jacksonville has cleaned up over time.
It has the highest murder rate in the state of Florida, and I was almost murdered there a year ago, this month.
Really?
Well, I was walking down. I made a big mistake. Okay, I woke up on Saturday. I was up in Jacksonville visiting some friends, and I was staying in a hotel. And I woke up at, like I normally do on Saturday, 2, 3 in the morning, and I went walking downtown making a YouTube video. And a guy started following me to mug me and do God only knows what else. It was pretty frightening. I captured it all on video. It's a very dangerous town, Jacksonville, Florida. I would feel much safer walking down the streets of El Salvador than Jacksonville. In fact, I may never go back to Jacksonville again after that. Yeah, pretty scary. Pretty scary.
Well,
all right.
You got certain parts of Jacksonville like any other city.
No, I can walk down the streets of my town at 3 in the morning and be safe. Jacksonville's a bad place. Bad place. I was downtown. I was right down the street from the jail, the county jail, on the river. I was staying in a hotel on the St. John's River.
No, I mean, like I said, Jacksonville is the size of Rhode Island.
Yes,
and,
big city.
So it's a large city.
Biggest city in America, isn't it?
That are bad.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, if you live over by the beach, you're a lot safer by the beach than you are. Safer. I'm safe everywhere where I'm at. All right, appreciate the call. All right, take care. All right, yeah, so that's that. I will say this. The Democrats are really helping President Trump out a lot because whatever the issue is, they're taking the wrong side of it. And I was talking earlier with this Garcia case. They got so involved with this Garcia guy before they looked into his background. They didn't know he was human trafficking. They didn't know he beat his wife. They didn't know he had MS-13 tattoos. All they know is stop Trump, oppose Trump. Whatever Trump says, we go against. And they got themselves up to their eyeballs in trouble with this very bad guy. But you know what? The Senator Van Hollen, he is in a lot of trouble. Listen to this. This is him over the weekend with Dana Bash on CNN.
President Trump says that some of Abrego Garcia's tattoos signify that he's a member of MS-13. In 2019, police alleged a confidential informant claimed that Abrego Garcia was an active MS-13 member. His wife and his attorney deny that, of course. Can you say with absolute certainty that he is not, nor has he ever been a member of the MS-13 gang? And did you ask him point blank?
Okay, so that's Dana Bash, CNN. She's interviewing this idiot, Senator Chris Van Hollen, who looks like he violated the Logan Act and could face some criminal charges. She said, do you have any evidence that he's never been a member of MS-13, and did you ask him? So listen to Van Hollen's answer.
Well, Dana, what Donald Trump is trying to do here is change the subject.
See, this is Van Hollen admitting that he is MS-13 because he didn't acknowledge her question. I'll play the whole thing.
And did you ask him point blank?
Well, Dana, what Donald Trump is trying to do here is change the subject. The subject at hand is that he and his administration are defying a court order to give Abrego Garcia his due process rights. They are trying to litigate on social media what they should be doing in the courts. They need to put up or shut up in the courts. Let me tell you, and I decided to write this down so I could be absolutely accurate as to what Federal District Court Judge Zinnes said about these allegations.
Okay, notice he totally ignored her question. So that means Van Hollen knows that he's trying to bring a member of the MS-13 terrorist organization back to his state in Maryland that he represents. My goodness, what kind of United States senator does that? A Democrat, that's the kind. All right, we're going to take our break. When we get back, I'm going to tell you guys for the first time how much weight I've lost thanks to Coastal Weight Loss Secret. We'll be right back. Oh, man. Great calls today, guys. If you'd like to call in, please do. The number is pinned in the live chat. Toll free no matter where you're watching. Got some other audio I want to play. Oh, yes, I'm going to play the... Definitely want to play this. Hold on. What? Welcome, everyone. And let me see, I got a couple other things I want to get in here. We'll be back in 1 minute. And this is a break, radio station break. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. You are listening to Florida's longest running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977, celebrating 48 years on the radio. If you're on hold, stand by. Now, a few weeks back, I guess maybe a couple months ago, I started the Coastal Weight Loss Secret. And the last few weeks, I stopped weighing myself. I've lost a ton of weight. My clothes have fallen off my body.
I see it. My stomach is completely flat. I've dropped several waist sizes. I've had to make so many holes in my belt. And I also can see it in my face and in my neck. I've lost a lot of weight. And I stopped weighing myself a few weeks ago because I was seeing so much change in my body. And my body right now is where it was when I was like 20, 21 years old. And I never thought I would be able to lose the belly, because when you get, I turned 54 years old yesterday. And when you get older, guys, you get that belly, and I just figured that's there for good. Gone. Completely gone. And yesterday, I weighed myself, okay? I have lost from, thanks to Coastal Weight Loss Secret, and again, I've done zero exercise, zero. I'm not taking any medication like Ozempic, and I'm eating foods I would normally eat, okay? I've lost 35 pounds. Now, I'm not going to tell you what I weigh and what I did weigh. I'm going to keep that private, because when I found out how much I weighed, I was like embarrassed. I mean, I was shocked. But I have lost 35 pounds with no exercise, no prescription medications, and eating foods I would normally eat. That is absolutely amazing. And it's all thanks to Coastal Weight Loss Secret. 35 pounds. That is a lot. When I think about it, I try to think of like, how many packs of hamburger would that be at the grocery store? Some people like to figure it out in butter sticks. I'm not sure how to do that conversion. Someone told me, but I forgot. But 35 pounds, that's a lot. For me, oh my goodness. And I feel great too. I really do. And those of you that watch me online, you can see the difference in my neck and my face, and it's absolutely amazing. And if you want to lose weight, give them a call. I'm going to give you the number in a moment. When you call Coastal Weight Loss Secret, make sure you tell them you heard about them on the True Oldies channel. All right? Now, if you want to lose less or more, you want to lose 20 pounds, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, 150 pounds, Coastal Weight Loss Secret can help you too. My goal was 25 pounds, but I've lost 35 pounds, and I've never been hungry. Never. And those of you that listened to me before, how many times did you hear me say, oh, I'm starving. It's like 7:30, and I'd wait to talk about Wings Plus and Coral Springs because I'd start getting hungry if I talked about them earlier. I mean, it's amazing. 35 pounds I've lost. It's absolutely amazing. Give them a call, 561-247-6300. 561-247-6300. That's 561-247-6300. And online, coastalweightlossSecret.com. All right, so I got a couple more sound bites I want to play. And, this Garcia thing, the liberals have lost their minds. This clip, this is Simone Sanders, and she's sitting with two panelists on MSNBC over the weekend, and they're talking about the deportation of this wife-beater MS-13er Garcia, the so-called Maryland man. One guy, I don't know who he is. The other guy is Michael Steele, fake Republican who used to be the head of the RNC. And she's talking live on MSNBC about what the deportation of Garcia means for black people.
But to me, that is why Kilmar Abrego Garcia's specific case, the case of the gentleman who's a makeup artist out of California who was also sent to that prison, that is why the 75% of the folks who have been sent, the men who have been sent there that don't have criminal records, that is why this is so important. Because if they could do it to them, if they could snatch students off the street without any pushback or recourse, they will do it to any of us. And to be very clear, it's going to be the people of color and vulnerable communities that are next in line.
I think that's right, and that's certainly part of why the African-American community is so strongly behind the supporting Kilmar.
Yeah, we are not for this.
Yeah, because as you just said, if they're going to whisk them away.
But
yeah, okay, so African-Americans, black people are going to, the people that are being deported are people that are in the country illegally and not U.S. citizens, and people who have some type of visa that have violated the condition of the guest visa because they're organizing for the Hamas terrorist organization. It's not the same as black people being taken off the streets, okay? And that's just the way of it. Now, I do want to share this. I mentioned this earlier. this division going on with David Hogg at the DNC. This is David Hogg on CNN over the weekend with Jake Tapper.
Well,
and then
so
I'll play a little bit of this, then we'll talk about it.
Well, so here's James Carville. Here's what he had to say about your idea. Take a listen.
The most insane thing I ever heard is the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee is spending $20 million running against other Democrats. Are we supposed to run against Republicans?
What's your response?
What's his plan to deal with our 27% approval rating? That's my question to him. The fact of the matter is right now, our party is in a crisis. We are seeing people lose faith in our party. They're losing faith in democracy across the country. And we need to make sure that we're getting people to vote for Democrats, not simply because we're not Donald Trump, but because we have a better message, a better option for them. Not simply the less bad of two options, as I think Carville tries to promote when he says, well, we just shouldn't say anything. Carville believes in a politics of being timid, of hiding. I believe in fighting. And that is what people want to see right now from the Democratic Party. We just saw an example of that with Senator Van Hollen going to El Salvador to say, we need to meet with this man. And yes, Democrats obviously are in the minority right now, but let's be clear, we cannot win back the majority if we do not convince the American people that our party offers something that isn't just not Donald Trump, but is substantially better than Donald Trump, that fights to lower costs for Americans across the country, whether it's healthcare, housing.
Okay, it goes on and on. Okay, so David Hogg, and I'm here to tell you guys that David Hogg is going to win this over James Carville and the others, okay? And he's going to become their leader, and he's going to become their leader because of two things. One, I mentioned this to a caller earlier. I saw Donna Brazile praising David Hogg on TV yesterday, and she's a big to-do in the DNC. But the main reason David Hogg, if you look at those Parkland kids, he's the only one still out there. All the other ones have gone back to a normal life, whatever that is. He's the only one there. His dad was in the FBI. He is very well connected. And he's got very powerful, connected people behind him, pushing for him. So David Hogg is going to prevail, and he very well may become the head of the DNC. Maybe he won't have the title, but he will become the most powerful person in the DNC. And they're pushing really hard to have AOC and Bernie Sanders run right now. And, my initial thought is, this is a good thing because David Hogg is very self-destructive. David Hogg, and you can go back to the Parkland Kids days until now. You'll hear him say this. David Hogg believes that young people should have a more valid voice than older people because they're going to be here after the older people are dead. They're going to live longer because they're younger. And he seems to not understand that he's getting older too. He's like 25 now. He's no longer a high school kid. He's getting older too. So should high school kids have opinions that trump his because they're younger? It's an ageism that is very bizarre, and it's very Logan Run-ish, if you're familiar with Logan's Run. He is a very dangerous person in the Democrat Party to the point that even Donna Brazile's afraid of him. There's this story today that he gave $100,000 to some Democrats. Where did that money come from? And who's he to give it out? He cares about one thing and one thing only: his own power right now. He's trying to elevate himself in the corridors of power, and that's where he's going right now. But when I see Donna Brazile cower down and defend him after the way he spoke about James Carville, who used to be like the most powerful guy in Washington. He was President Trump's top guy. President Clinton's top advisor. He got President Clinton elected, and he's out now. David Hogg has more power than him, and Donna Brazile's afraid of David Hogg. So I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. In the immediacy, it's a good thing because he's very self-destructive. AOC's self-destructive. Jasmine Crockett's self-destructive. There's division inside the Democrat Party. We want division going into the midterms, because the way the polling is looking, this may be like the only midterm that I know of, that maybe there's been one, but it's the only one I can think of, where the incumbent party may actually gain seats. Who knows? Historically, the party in power loses seats. in the midterms. And a lot of that is because energy around a candidate's lost. In the presidential season, there's a lot of energy and excitement, and we have the Trump rallies. And I don't know if we're going to have that in the midterms. But rallying behind Trump-endorsed candidates and Republicans in the midterms is very, very important. And with this division in the Democrat Party, we got a good chance to gain some seats, in particular in the House, where we really need them. But this division in the Democrat Party is good in the short term, but at some point they're going to unify behind somebody, and it looks like David Hogg. Yeah, I know it's a new world, but you know what? The majority of people in this country are conservative. That's why Trump did so well. The media have given us a false impression for a long time that liberalism was the mainstream. It's not. Liberalism has always been a minority opinion in this country. It's just they're overrepresented in media and in entertainment, so they seem much more influential than they actually are. All right, we're coming up on the top of the hour break. If you'd like to comment, please do. Our number's toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call no matter where you are listening. 888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. I'm Brian Craig. You are listening to Florida's longest-running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977, celebrating 48 years on the radio. 2 hours down, 1 to go. We'll be right back. Hey. Yep. What's going on? Oh, okay. All right. I'm going to put you on hold. I'll pick you up in just... Okay. All right. Hold on. Okay. You there, Steve?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right. Hold on.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hold on. We'll be back in just over a minute. Okay, we're back in 1 minute.
Okay.
Welcome back, everyone. The third hour of this Monday after Easter has begun. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest-running radio show. I'm Brian Craig. Steve Kane joining us. How you doing, Steve?
Well, I was not doing well yesterday. I'm starting to feel a little better because I know you're going to straighten me out and help me get rid of my anxieties, which you're very good at, I must tell you.
All right.
But it was, what I see going on over the weekend scares the living you-know-what out of me. And I called you, as usual, to calm me down, and as usual, you did calm me down, somewhat, but I still have a lot of questions that I need answers for. Basically, the theme of this thing is, why do you feel so good and I'm so nervous?
Because you watch Fox News on Sunday. And Sunday on Fox News is very anti-Trump.
reply.
But I don't know. So what are you worried about?
Well, all right. Let me I got two things written down here that off the top of my head. All right. First is in reference to Omar, the gangbanger.
The MS-13 terrorist that beats his wife, Garcia. Yes, Kilmar.
Exactly. What is it in this situation? What is the? I'll just ask a status question. What is the status of that case as far as the Supreme Court's last ruling? What is the
Nothing.
status
This Supreme Court ruling that came down on Saturday morning, I tell you, these outlaws in the Supreme Court that are involved in a judicial coup against the President of the United States, since when do these jokers put their robes on at 5 a.m. on Saturdays? The ruling of the Supreme Court on Saturday morning had nothing to do with Kilmar.
What was it?
There's a small group of Venezuelans in Texas, a small group, like a couple of vans, like a bus full of Venezuelans that were being deported, that they stopped. Well, their opinion was they should not be deported. It was like one or two buses of specific Venezuelans at a specific location.
The latest status of the case?
Yeah, now the way the media are portraying it is that the Supreme Court ruled that none of these illegals can be deported. It was for this small group that filled one, maybe two buses at this specific location in Texas near the Mexican border. Just this one group.
All the other El Salvadorans
and
can be
gangbang.
deported, right?
Yes, correct. It was just this small group, maybe only a bus full, but no more than two buses full. Yeah.
Are you sure of that?
Yes, it was about these particular illegals that were just about to be deported from a specific place in Texas. Yeah. It wasn't about all of them. It was just
in that ruling, who were the judges that voted against Trump?
Two very good ones. Alito and Clarence Thomas.
No, they voted for. They voted.
They were on Trump's side, and they said the Supreme Court had no authority because it had not gone through the appeals courts yet.
So who are the villains here?
Everybody but Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. The other 7 justices.
Well, so according to the other 7 justices, we can't.
Well, they're all corrupt. They have no authority.
Well, but their ruling is the operative one now.
Well, here's the thing, Steve. Here's the thing. The Supreme Court of the United States is not the supervisor of the President of the United States. This idea that they've been telling us lies our whole lives in school, okay? That we have 3 branches of government that have separate but equal power. That's not true. We have 3 branches of government that have separate powers. They're not equal, okay? And the Supreme Court does not. The president is oath bound when he takes the oath of office to protect and defend the United States from enemies, both foreign and domestic. We have an army of 20 million illegals, tens of thousands of barbarians from these gangs that murder and kill people and traffic people and do all kinds of business. He is oath bound to deport them. The Supreme Court has no authority over the president.
Well, that's your opinion, but it's not the decision of the Supreme Court.
Well, all they have are opinions too.
Decision.
All they have are opinions too. They just give their opinions in robes.
Yeah, but they're the Supreme Court.
So what? The Supreme Court, Steve.
Your opinion and theirs?
The Supreme Court ruled in Dred Scott that black people were property. The Supreme Court ruled that segregation was okay. Just because
you really don't see how that's going to end up in a what do they call it?
This is who the president answers to.
Constitutional crisis.
If the president breaks the law, there's a process in the Congress to impeach him and remove him from office. These judges do. The president does not answer to judges.
Is that what you're so optimistic about? That process?
Well, first off, their opinion, which was not an official Supreme Court ruling, it was an opinion on this, only involved a bus or two of illegal Venezuelans at this one location in Texas. It was not about all the deportations. It was about a couple dozen.
You're saying, don't worry, he's going to be impeached.
No. What I'm saying is that if the president goes outlaw, which this president's not done, there's a system in Congress to impeach him in the House and try him in the Senate, and if they get enough votes, remove a president, which has never happened. The judges do not supervise the president. All they do is give opinions. This is a judicial coup, a judicial insurrection against the president. They have no authority over the president, the Supreme Court. None. He does not answer to them, and they are not his boss.
All right, well, maybe from our little dialogue here, maybe the audience can understand why I'm not feeling very chipper.
Well, because I told you, Steve,
overjoyed.
Steve, don't watch Fox on Sundays anymore. It's bad for your mental health. No one should do that.
It's that simple.
Yeah. You're better off watching CNN or MSNBC than watching Fox on Sunday. I'm telling you, is there any other anxieties that I can help with? I'm not a therapist.
I have a couple other questions, but
I'm not a therapist. I'm not a life coach, but I can pretend to be one from time to time.
You're not a therapist. You're not a lawyer.
Well, I know this, that the federal judges, including the Supreme Court, are not the president's boss. That there's an impeachment and trial in the Senate process for a president who breaks the law. So if Mike Johnson wants to impeach him and have a trial in the Senate, that process could happen. But these federal judges have no authority over the president. Steve, I'm going to put you on hold for a second here. Our phones are ringing off the hook. Hold on. All right. Do I got you back, Steve?
Yes.
Okay. These judges have no authority over the president. None. And so what if they give opinions? We're giving opinions. We're just not wearing robes. You want to take some calls?
Yeah.
All right.
That's what I had in mind.
Okay, let's go.
Actually.
All right, let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Fran from San Antonio, Texas.
Hey, Fran.
You need to read the ruling. The ruling just puts in forbearance the deportation order until it goes through the whole system.
No, there's a group of Venezuelans at this particular location in Texas, 1 or 2 buses worth. They were about to be deported. They even had them on the buses. They have ACLU lawyers. The ACLU lawyers went to, they're private lawyers for the ACLU. They went to multiple federal courts at different levels throughout the country, including the Supreme Court, about this particular group. It's not about all Venezuelans. It's about this particular group.
But read the order. It's the only class. And the thing is, what happened is Trump jumped the gun, and it hadn't gone. The Fifth Court of Appeals, the Fifth Circuit hadn't ruled.
No, he didn't jump the gun. He's doing the right thing. He's protecting. This country's been invaded. We've been invaded and he is repelling enemy invaders.
Well, hold on. Let me ask one question. The key question here. So, according to your view, the way you see it, Brian, how is Omar? We'll keep wanting to call him
Kilmar Garcia.
How is Kilmar going to end up?
Kilmar Garcia has nothing to do with this Supreme Court ruling. It has nothing to do with him. The president of El Salvador said he's staying in prison in El Salvador.
So that's the end of that case.
Well, they're still going to gripe about it, but he's not coming back.
But the thing is, with the current ruling, Trump went and jumped to the Supreme Court, and he got a ruling for the existing class. The existing class is the only people that are involved in this.
Let me tell you. Did you know? You may not. Okay, think about this. Okay, the Japanese attacked America on December 7th, 1941. Right? You know, what if the Supreme Court told President Roosevelt he couldn't repel the attackers at Pearl Harbor? That should he have?
It's the thing is, it's a limited class, and it has to go through the system.
No, it does not. These are members of a terror. Listen, Trinidad de Agua and MS-13. These guys, these are terrorist organizations. U.S. policy.
That's right.
So when you have, whether it's Japanese kamikazes or terrorists as the commander-in-chief of the United States, you have the authority to repel these attackers and invaders of our country. It's not up to a bunch of weirdos who wear robes who may be naked underneath to supervise the president of the United States.
But the exact order is for the specific class.
I know. Well, okay, we're going around in circles. I appreciate the call. We got a break, Steve. All right. If you're on hold, hang in there. It's the Steve Kane Show. Steve Kane is here. I'm Brian. We'll be right back. Steve, you there?
Yeah.
All right, hold on.
This is good.
Yeah,
Let's go to the call.
Yeah, we will. We're not back yet.
So there's no way that Omar ends up in...
Omar's got nothing to do with that decision.
I thought the whole thing is about
hold on,
Steve.
Hold on. Wait. We're going to do it on the air because we're going to be back. Hold on. We got just over a minute. One minute, we'll be back. If you're on hold, hang in there. Welcome back, everyone. It's the Steve Kane Show. I'm Brian Craig. Steve Kane is here. Do you want to go back to the phone, Steve? What do you want to do?
After a quick question, I just want to clarify one small point. So are you telling me that the return or non-return of
Kilmar Garcia?
Omar,
yeah.
Are you saying that that's not even a relevant issue here, that's been decided?
Yeah, the president of El Salvador is not returning him. He's a citizen of El Salvador. He's in prison there.
And what are we going to do about that?
Nothing. He's where our government wants him there. President Trump's the head of our government.
It's U.S. policy.
Is that what the Congress is saying?
The Congress is on our side. Yeah, it's a MAGA Congress. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's go back to the phones. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Brian, Steve.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Tom, Florida. Hey, there is due process. These gangs are horrible. Okay, they do need to do something about it. If the guy is an American and he got thrown in with the bunch, it's
he's not an American.
We should get him home.
He's not an American. He's a Central American.
Okay. God bless the Pope too for dying. It's gosh, I mean, J.D. Vance just saw him the day before. God, I don't know if that's a sign or if that's just bad luck. Hey,
No, just a bad call from you.
So you're telling me now that there's only Amy Coney Barrett, she's a bad news, right? You're telling me
Amy Coney Barrett in President Trump's first in President Trump's first term, Amy Coney Barrett almost killed President Trump. She gave him COVID at the White House.
She gave him COVID. Okay, it wasn't that super spreader event with no masks or anything, right?
I don't know if they were wearing masks or not, but she gave him COVID.
Yeah.
Her and her family had COVID, and she went to the White House, and President Trump had to be flown to the hospital, and he was very sick. Very sick. He could hardly stand up. He was so sick.
Okay, so you think she knowingly did that? She went to the White House?
Some people think so.
Okay,
some people think so.
Brian, oh my God. The conspiracy theories that come out of your mouth with no fact is hilarious, okay?
Look at this fake laugh this guy's doing. This fake laugh.
No, it's fake because you got to be kidding me, man, the way you think. Steve has perspective. You have blind loyalty to this guy.
And what do you have? What do you have? Blind disloyalty?
You know what? I have common sense. It's free, Brian.
Common sense. Share. Give an example of your.
Right?
Okay, hold on. You say you have common sense. I question that. With the issues we're talking about today, with the issues in the news today that we're discussing, give us one of your common sense opinions.
Well, the only news that's been on today has been about the Pope, which I already said, God bless him. I hope that's very unfortunate.
No, that's not. Everybody feels sorry for someone who died. I'm talking about with Kilmar and Trump.
Well, you don't feel sorry as a Catholic?
Yes, that's an obvious thing. We're talking about the deportations and President Trump. Let's hear a common sense opinion.
Listen, the deportations, yes. But I mean, Brian, once you start going around that corner, which the Supreme Court did it.
What corner? What corner are we going around?
The Supreme Court already gave him the power, saying that the president, while he's already
the Supreme Court doesn't give the president power. Tom, I asked for a common sense opinion, not stupidity. The Supreme Court.
Ready for this?
Excuse me. No, I'm not.
Okay.
The Supreme Court does not give the president authority. They're not his boss.
Okay, that's funny because he went over there like he was. When they did. Okay, hold on. He went in front of them to get a ruling on whether or not the president has powers to be prosecuted or not.
They're not his boss.
Do you want to answer? Or
do I want to answer? No. Fine. Thank you for that out. I appreciate that. He gave me that out. Do I want to answer? No. Steve, there's this idea that the Supreme Court is the president's boss. When did that start? Since when does the president have to run things by the Supreme Court? They're not his supervisor. Did you learn about that in school? Did I lose you, Steve?
Well, no, I'm here.
I mean,
I guess I thought you were asking Tom the question.
No, I got rid of Tom.
Okay, yeah, I know that. I was going to point out he can't answer the question since you hung up on him, but because I was kind of looking forward to what he would say.
Well, he gave me that out. Do you want to hear my answer? And I said no. I wanted to get. I don't even think I asked him a question. What did I ask him?
We're involved here in the search for truth. You can't get the answer if you hung up on him.
I had him on for like 5 minutes. He was giving me a headache.
I'm sure there's more where he came from.
Well, listen. The president does the only mechanism that a president answers to
is the Congress through the impeachment process, where they'll have a trial in the Senate if he's impeached in the House. That's it, okay? The federal judges, the Supreme Court and these lower judges are not the supervisor or boss of the president. He does not
But my
answer to them.
understanding is the Supreme Court is the final arbiter, as I understand.
Well, I know that the left would like you to think that, but that no, not in this instance. The United States has been invaded. We are an occupied nation. We have over 20 million invaders occupying America right now.
If you accept that they're a category of
Well, the Trinidad, yes, yeah. Trinidad Agua and MS-13 are terrorist organizations. I mean, imagine if we had tens of thousands of ISIS and Al-Qaeda in this country, in American cities, living off the government, and the president was repelling ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Who would go against that? Right? MS-13 and Trinidad Agua are the same as ISIS and Al-Qaeda according to U.S. policy. They're terrorists. They're international terrorist organizations. And he is repelling these invaders from our country. That is what his job is. Now, I want to tell people, if you don't feel safe at home, call Sloman's. The doorbell camera from Sloman's is amazing. With the doorbell camera from Sloman's, which you can get for free with the installation of your Sloman Shield, you get a notification on your cell phone anytime there's movement at your door. It's amazing. It's a great part for your home security system, and it's also spectacular just for the convenience of it, right? If there's a knock at your door, you don't have to answer the door. I mostly what I use, I don't have people trying to break into my house every day, thankfully. But I do have door-to-door salesmen, solicitors that are always knocking on my door, and I get the notification when they're walking up to the house. I see them, I know what they are, and I don't have to go to the door and answer it. I don't have to look out the window or the peephole. No matter where I am in the world, by the way, I get that notification. And you can get a doorbell camera for free from Sloman's with the installation of your Sloman Shield. Sloman's is also going to give you this. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? When you use their low-cost central station monitoring, you're going to get an LED touchscreen, a motion detector, 10 contacts, a lifetime warranty, a backup battery, plus with the installation of your Sloman Shield, you can get that free doorbell camera. Give them a call. Their number is toll-free, 833-283-5050. 833-283-5050. That's 1-833-283-5050. Callers on hold, stand by. It's the Steve Kane Show. We'll take our break for the bottom of the hour. Our number's toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. Back with your calls after this. Steve, you there? Steve? Hey, hold on. I lost you. Hold on. We're still in break. Hold on. All right. Steve, you there?
Yes.
Okay, hang in there.
Can you hear me?
Yep, hang in there.
Hello?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can
Okay.
you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Hang in there.
Okay. Sounds like we're in business.
Yeah. We'll be back in less than a minute. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Radio Show, Florida's longest running radio show. Steve Kane's here. Do you want to go back to the phone, Steve? What do you want to do?
Yes, if we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Hang in there. Hold on. Let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Helen from Massachusetts.
Hey, Helen.
Hi. Hope you guys had a nice Easter. Regarding Steve, the Supreme Court is just a reviewing court. That's all it is. It doesn't have power over our president. They can try to be persuasive, but the ultimate decision lies with the executive branch. I mean, the legislative branch creates the laws. The Supreme Court reviews the law to make sure it's constitutional. The executive branch enforces the law. So I'm guessing President Trump, because he's a lawful man, he likes to follow the law, maybe they're reviewing laws regarding this ruling to make sure it's on the up and up. But he can choose to, if he's persuaded, to
when you say this ruling, which ruling are you talking about?
The one that's keeping those Venezuelans in Texas.
This one group of Venezuelans, yeah. A couple buses full.
I thought he was being respectful and nice, keeping them there, but
well, they made it, but they have a decision already, right?
It doesn't matter what their decision is.
It doesn't matter.
They're not the boss of the president.
The president enforces the law. There's also a supremacy clause in the Constitution. I mean, I don't know. Well, they ruled on it, so that's the one thing with the Supreme Court. When they rule on something, it becomes federal, but he may be reviewing the law. If he chooses to follow the ruling, then fine. If not, he does not have to. Obama, for example, used to say, don't follow the law. Even if it was, an actual law, and it should.
Well, the Supreme Court does not make law. They do not make law.
No, they don't.
Yeah, and they have no supervisor.
Interpret it.
The country has been invaded, and we have an occupying army of over 20 million that the commander-in-chief is repelling. It is not up to the Supreme Court to tell him he can't repel invaders.
That's right. The only thing they have is they can try to persuade them, but that's like, making a suggestion or giving advice or whatever. That is it.
Correct.
That is it. The ultimate decision lies with the executive branch, the president.
Yeah.
That's it.
Now, the media aren't going to tell you that because they hate Trump.
No.
Okay? But it's
They're
true.
not.
Yeah. Yeah. And so far as Kilmar, he's an El Salvadorian citizen. He's in El Salvador. And a couple weeks ago, the El Salvador president took him out of that famous prison and put him in another prison. He's not even in that one prison we keep hearing about. He hasn't been there for a couple of weeks. The Gulag, they call it.
Yeah. I wish the president of El Salvador would have arrested Holland, thrown him in the prison, and just, waited for him to beg President Trump to get him out.
Well,
he's a coward, too.
He's in trouble. That Maryland senator's in trouble. People have been talking over the weekend that he violated the Logan Act, which is what they got General Flynn on, which is interfering in foreign policy. So he may be facing some criminal charges.
Well, he's probably not going to be as punished as we would like him to be.
Oh, he's being punished in public. I mean, he's looking like a dummy. Especially when that one girl that everyone's talking about that had all the kids that was murdered by one of the Biden, Kamala Harris dreamers. She was a Maryland girl. She's one of his constituents. He doesn't visit the angel mom, but he goes to El Salvador to visit this wife beater.
A Maryland girl? For some reason, I thought she was from Virginia.
No, there's been some Maryland murders too. No, there's been Maryland murders by illegals too. He hasn't met with any angel families in Maryland, but he goes to meet with a wife beater in El Salvador. He's a sicko. And a terrorist. Yeah. That's right. And he was on all the Sunday shows, and he looked awful yesterday. Awful.
Yeah, he's probably concerned that he's going to be reelected. He doesn't care.
I don't know when he's up. Well, listen, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much for your call. So you should feel perfectly fine now, Steve.
Maybe.
Unless you don't want to feel good. Maybe you don't want to feel good. I don't know.
No, I know I'd like to feel good. I feel good most of the time with Mr. Trump.
I feel good all the time.
I don't know about this one. And but just to switch for a second, talk about feeling good. How do you feel about the way it looks like it's going to end up in
Russia and Ukraine?
Yes, Ukraine.
Oh, I feel great about that. It's going to end in a peace deal. It's going to end in peace.
Really? Russia's going to sign a
peace deal? Absolutely.
Ceasefire?
Eventually. Yeah, absolutely. No, a peace treaty. There's eventually going to be a peace treaty. Yeah.
That wasn't what I heard.
If it wasn't for Zelensky and the way he behaved at the White House, it probably would have already happened.
Yeah, he's hard, Zelensky.
Yeah, this war's continuing not because of Putin, because of Zelensky. Zelensky messed everything up. He was supposed to sign that mineral deal. He wouldn't do it.
He signed it now.
He hasn't. He's doing everything. He talks about signing it a lot. He says he's going to sign it, but I haven't seen a deal between him and Trump signed. He keeps saying he's going to sign it, but then he doesn't sign it. No, Trump's...
Well, we're not going to sign any treaties without that.
Trump is winning on every front. And who cares about Ukraine anyway? That's not our war. At all. No, everything's going well. Everything is going well. Could not be going better, actually. I tell you. To me, everything is... I can't think of anything that's not going in Trump's favor. And I think most people agree. And, what the last caller said about the Supreme Court was spot on. They have no authority over President Trump at all. They're not his boss. They can recommend, they can give him their opinion, but it means nothing. Nothing. Now, before we go back to the phones, I announced this in the last hour. I weighed myself yesterday and found out how much weight I lost from Coastal Weight Loss Secret. And I've not weighed myself in a few weeks. But I could see that the weight was just melting off my body. My stomach is completely flat. I've lost, I don't know how many waist sizes, okay? My face, my neck are so thin. I know I'd lost a lot of weight, but I didn't weigh myself for the last couple of weeks. I weighed myself yesterday. I have lost 35 pounds.
35 pounds. That's a lot. And again, that's without any exercise. I'm not taking any medications like Ozempic or anything. And I'm eating foods I would normally eat. You can do the same thing. Give them a call. You know, if you want to lose 20 pounds, 25 pounds, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, 150 pounds or more, Coastal Weight Loss Secret can help. Now, when you call them, make sure you tell them you heard about them on the True Oldies channel. Here's their number, 561-247-6300. 561-247-6300. That's 561-247-6300. And online, coastalweightlossecret.com. No, this is an amazing time we're in, Steve. You know, this is a time of winning. But the fake news want you to feel like we're losing. Right? So what you're going to get in the news is just constant negative stories. That's just it. You don't feel any better than when you came on, Steve.
No, I don't really. I remain unconvinced.
No? Well, Steve, I'm going to put you on hold for a minute while our phones are blowing up here. So let me answer all these very busy phones. All right, hold on. All right, you back with me, Steve?
Yes.
All right, let's take some of these calls. Maybe somebody else can make you feel better. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. Once, twice. All right. I guess they gave up, Steve. They gave up. Oh, man. Maybe, you know what? We'll go back to the phones after the break because we've got some jokers on the line. But I'll tell you this, Steve, that if a plane landed with Kilmar in Maryland, then you'd have a reason to worry. But that's not happening. How's that going to happen? The president of El Salvador said, what am I supposed to do? Sneak a terrorist back in the United States? And even if he found his way back in the United States, he would be subject to immediate deportation under the current rulings, and he'd end up back in El Salvador. So, and we've heard from the Trump administration, there's no scenario where Kilmar gets back in America. None. It's over. Why? I don't understand. Oh, all right. I mean,
I don't understand why I'm so skeptical.
Because you watch Fox News on Sundays. I tell you, don't do that. That's where all the Trump haters are. All day long on Fox News on Sunday. That's where
I watched Fox all day yesterday. I saw a lot of support for Trump.
Well, then I don't know where you're getting these crazy opinions.
On a Sunday show.
Then where are you getting these crazy opinions?
Well, I got them mostly on Saturday.
Oh, well, Saturday's no better, apparently. You know? They, especially on a holiday weekend when they have the third stringers in. Right? They don't have the main people. You know, they've got
some pretty good people on the weekend.
All right, hold on. I'm going to put you back on hold, Steve, while I answer these 80 calls that are coming in. Hold on. All right. You want to take some of these calls, Steve?
Yes.
All right, let's go. All right. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Tom from Horseheads.
All right, Tom.
Thomas.
It looks like Joe Rogan disagrees with you on Abrego.
So what? Who cares?
Well, I think he's smarter than you.
Okay.
Well, what did he say? Fill us in, Cole.
Well, it's called due process. You can't just grab people off the street and send them to prison.
Really? So,
which is what we did.
He had 2 federal immigration judges said deport him.
No.
Yes.
No. He had an order specifically saying not to send him. He had a social security number. He was allowed to.
How can an illegal have a social? Hold on. How does an illegal alien have a social security number? So you're telling us he's all? Not only is he a wife beater and terrorist, he's committing social security fraud.
He's going through the
no.
process.
Wife beaters are not eligible for citizenship. It's a disqualifier.
Do you just make up rules as you go along, or do you want?
No, I listen. I listened to Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States, who's talked about that. Marco Rubio and Stephen Miller.
She's a joke.
To you,
and you know it.
To you.
Hey, let's see this. Let's try this scenario. A Democratic president gets in office. and he snags the Proud Boys off the street, the ones that were pardoned, and sends them to a prison in a foreign country.
That's different.
Are you okay with that?
No, that's different. They are American citizens. Kilmar Garcia is an illegal alien who has deportation orders, who's a member of a terrorist organization.
Trump's talking about doing that to Americans too.
Has he done it?
You okay with that?
Has he done it?
No, but he wants to.
Just because he says something doesn't mean he's going to do it.
Oh, but I thought his final word.
When he
was
does
wrong.
it, call. When he does it, we'll talk about it.
He doesn't have to pay attention to the courts anymore.
No, he does. No, excuse me. He doesn't answer to the court. The courts are not his boss.
Yeah, the courts rule on the laws, on the books.
They do not. He does not
by their
answer.
ruling.
He does not answer to the courts.
No, he has to abide by their
No, he
rulings.
doesn't. No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does.
No, he doesn't.
The Supreme Court has the final word.
No, they don't. No, they don't. There's a if the president, okay, if it's illegal for the president to disobey the Supreme Court, and he disobeys the Supreme Court, what happens?
It's called a constitutional crisis.
No, but what happens?
There has not
What
been
happens?
There has not been.
What
there
happens?
hasn't been a scenario. I'm trying to answer you. Will you stop saying that?
Well, answer.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my goodness! Pope just died taking the Lord's name in vain the day after Easter. Shame on you.
I'm trying to answer your question. That has never happened in the history of our country. Name a time when a president has ignored a Supreme Court ruling.
This is the process.
It hasn't.
This is the process.
It hasn't happened.
Excuse me. That's not the question I asked. What I asked you is if the president breaks the law, if you believe that if he doesn't relinquish his presidency and abdicate to the Supreme Court, that he's broken the law. My question is if the president breaks the law, what happens? There's a process in Congress called the impeachment process in the House that triggers a trial in the Senate. Oh, yeah, I know. I know. You were just taking a long time to get there. So if the president breaks the law, the House can impeach him and the Senate can try him. And if they get enough votes, remove him from office. He does not answer to the Supreme Court. They are not his boss. Sorry.
Well,
listen, I got to run for our break. We got to run for our break.
Sorry that standards and norms are just.
I know. No, it's not standards and norms. It's just the way it is. All right, Steve, I'm going to put you on hold. We're going to take our last break and be right back. Hey there, hold on. Steve, you there? Steve? Hey, Steve, hold on. Steve, you there?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. All right, William, stand by. Oh. Okay, jeez. All right, Steve, you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I lost William. William, you there? Hey there, William. Hold on. Steve, you there? Steve,
Hello?
All right, Steve, hold on. I'm going to conference William. Hold on. Okay. All right, William, you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, stand by. Okay. William, you there? Okay, William, here we go.
Hold on.
Okay. You there? I'm having some tech issues.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. We are back. Sorry, some tech issue guys holding us up. We are going to check in with William Youngerman from the offices of William Youngerman Incorporated with our first look at gold and the precious metals for the week. William Youngerman, how's the week starting off with the metals?
Yeah, the week starting off very exciting, Brian, as we hit another record high after closing at $3,382.20 on Friday. That was down $14.60, with silver at $32.53, platinum at $9.66, and palladium closing out the week at $9.44. This morning, gold up $80.
Oh, my goodness.
Hitting a new all-time record high, trading in a range of $3,395 to $3,409. And right now, Brian, we're at $3,408 the ounce. That's up $80 this morning.
Wow.
Silver up 51 cents at $33.05 the ounce. Platinum up $2 at $9.68. And palladium down $14 at $9.30. So exciting times in the precious metals. We are starting off the week, again, heading towards, it looks like, $4,000 gold.
Oh, my.
$408 as of now.
Wow. I mean,
up
what?
$80.
There's nothing left to say but give out your number and address. I mean, that's amazing. William Youngman opens up at 10 a.m. And remember, all the metals are available for immediate delivery. Give him a call, 1-800-327-5010. 1-800-327-5010. His address is 150 East Palmetto Park Road in Boca, on the first floor of the Bank of America building, just east of US 1 Federal Highway on the south side of Palmetto Park Road. And you can find William Youngerman's address and phone number on his website, williamyoungerman.com. Wow, William, we started off the week with a bang, and we'll touch base tomorrow.
Okay, have a great day.
All right, take care. All right, Steve, we are back. You back with us, Steve?
I
All right,
know.
yeah, you're back with us. I'm sorry. Yeah, William Youngerman, oh my goodness, the gold report's going nutso. So I had a hard time getting Youngerman, but we're back, and we'll go right back to the phones. If you're on hold, stand by. We'll take these to the best of our ability in the order in which they were received. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this Big Mike. What's going on?
Not much, Mike.
From Ohio.
All right, Mike, go ahead.
Hey, yeah, I was listening to you guys this morning, and, from what I get out of the conversation is, both of you guys like Trump, you and Steve.
Yes.
But by listening to you guys, Steve is more of a patriot. He puts his country first. He don't care. Then this is what I'm getting out of it. He might like Trump, but he loves his country more, and he's concerned. When he sees things done without authority, just abusing authority, it's like it can go back to the days of Hitler with the Enabling Act. He can just do what he want to do.
What?
And I think
Hold on, slow down a second. Hold on a second. What has Donald Trump done that is Hitler-like?
Okay, it's like, okay, look here. He passed these executive orders, with all this stuff. So like the courts, they're coming in and blocking it. That's their job. They're coming in and saying, no, you can't do that. It's unconstitutional. Like
they don't. The president doesn't answer to the court. The court.
Hold on. Don't cut me off. So I want to stay on track. But this is what I don't want to get on what he's done, but I think because you got to understand, if if Trump gets all this power and all this authority, Steve Kane, a Democrat, going to get in there and going to have the same power. And Steve Kane is looking at it more or less like, look, every president should have restrictions. Every president should not be able to do what they want.
They do. They answer to the. Hold on a second. No, you hold. You no. Hold on.
I want to stay on point.
Slow down for a second. Finish your sentence, and I'm going to hang up on you because you're not letting me talk. Finish your sentence.
I'm driving. That's what I feel.
Well, then relax.
I'm getting like an echo, brother.
All right. Appreciate the call. All right, let's take another one, Steve. Let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, this is the world of Elon. And I just like to call these little podcasts and leave some information.
Okay, well, then find a little one and call them. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, no.
Where are you
calling? I want to hear that call.
No, you didn't, Steve. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Mega Fam. IB and Broward.
All right, IB.
Bottom line is that we have a hive mind, okay, and division creating dissent and chaos. It's obviously the goal right now because, like I said before, we are in a civil war, but without a gun at this point. Now, Biden already told us that he has over 120 judges waiting to be used.
All right, we got a really bad connection with you. You got to speak up, IB. You're like 10 feet away from your phone.
How's that?
That's better.
Like I said, okay, let's just make it point blank. Steve says it's like throwing a ball on a wet mattress. You was going in a circle with that lady. You give her the example. She goes back to the same talking point because she sees red and they can't go beyond that point. So it's called the hive mind. So these people think alike and they are in the same kind of mind frame as the criminals. I'm looking at this this El Salvadorian Mr. Michigan man. I'm looking at it him as it's their modern day Elian Gonzalez, or if that guy was black, you see how they want to rile up the black people. But we are aware of what you guys are doing, and stop using us black people for your cause. Okay, we don't ask for you to advocate for us. They want to make this guy like the new George Floyd. They want to rile this up because all they have now is violence.
You're right. I appreciate the call. That was a good analogy. All right, let me try to squeeze one more in. All right, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian. MJ from Houston, Texas.
All right, go ahead, MJ.
Yeah, no, I just the guy before, I don't know what he's talking about. I agree there are Democrats that are always trying to use black people to their advantage, and they try to take advantage of us, so I'm 100% there with him on that. But I think a lot of this whole MAGA drama with Trump and the loyalty you guys have to him, it's just getting ridiculous and out of hand. There are even some conservatives coming out against him.
Yeah, never Trumpers.
I get what you...
What has he done wrong? Listen, we got 30 seconds. What has he done wrong that we should be against?
I'll be quick. Well, he is a criminal, first of all. He's convicted in the courts twice.
Yeah.
He is exerting executive powers going beyond the Supreme Court. When Biden tried to do that with student loans, no one had a problem with the Supreme Court shutting that down. And you guys just let him get away with whatever he wants to get away with.
What he wants to do is send rapists, murderers, and terrorists back to their country that they're from.
No.
We're out of time. We're out of time. We have 8 seconds left. Steve, do you feel better than you did an hour ago?
No.
All right. We're out of time for today. You're listening to the Steve Kane Show. Steve Kane is depressed. I'm Brian Craig. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Thanks for listening, everyone. Take care. Oh, man. Want me to take some more calls? Wait till we're clear and I'll take some more calls. All right. I'll take another couple calls. If you want to call in, you still can. We're not on the radio now, but we're still on YouTube. So let's take a call or two. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Stephen Bryan. It's JJ from Mass.
Hey, JJ, what's up?
Well,
from what I've seen over the past few weeks, the Democrats aren't really stuck on stupid. They're more of in a race, sort of a stampede of stupidity. And Van Hollen and the rest of these clowns are on a horse, all of them, racing to the finish line.
Well, what I was talking about earlier, and I'll see if you agree, or answer all these calls that are coming in. Let me see if you agree with this or not. I think they got behind this Garcia, this Killjoy, whatever his name is, without knowing who he was. They got a knee-jerk rally behind him because they want to oppose Trump. And if they'd have known he was a wife beater and all this stuff, they probably wouldn't have gotten behind this guy. They would have found another George Floyd type.
Yeah, I agree with that. They're just grabbing at they're throwing everything against the wall. They're desperate. They're grabbing at everything they can. And this guy, they've turned themselves into this they're anti-U.S. citizen, pro-illegal alien. The guy flew to a foreign country. They're just, they've really lost it. You got David Hogg and AOC. Forget it. These guys are, the Democrat Party, as we know, they're done. These are like the last, the death screams of a dying party.
And it's beautiful.
It's glorious, absolutely beautiful.
And I'm enjoying it. All right, take care. Appreciate the call. All right. This is the post show that you're getting now. Let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, my name's Timothy. I'm calling from North Texas.
All right, Timothy, what's up?
Hey, sorry, can you hear me well?
I can. What's on your mind?
Well, I was just calling in to ask you a few questions regarding especially the most recent moves to utilize federal land, especially for resources. I myself, I voted for Donald Trump 3 times in the last 3 elections. And I would say everything he does I support, but I'm apprehensive when we start getting into federal lands, especially national parks.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So lately, especially with the executive orders to free up federal lands for timber, fracking, and natural gas, those places have been protected for a very, very long time, ever since Theodore Roosevelt. And I just get a little apprehensive when it comes to opening all that up for resource harvesting, especially because I feel like it's done a little half-hearted.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not really too interested in that topic, but so I'm going to move on. But, I can't get interested in the national parks, guys. I'm sorry. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Brian. This is Kevin from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah, Kevin.
Hey, Brian. I've been listening here to the show for the past, 2 hours, and there was a point where you had a discussion with the guy saying that Phil Hegseth has some criticism with the whole signal fiasco, and you eventually, this is the guy you hung up on. I'm not him. I'm just saying it's that conversation. And so eventually you ended up making the point that, we all do it. You try to compare yourself to him.
I don't quite get that.
Yeah, I just find it.
I was comparing myself to who?
To Phil Hegseth. I believe it was
Pete
Phil
Hegseth? How did I compare myself to Pete Hegseth? I don't remember doing that.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember the conversation, but it's the guy you hung up on. He ended up cussing. But
I had to hang up on him. He used the F word. I had to hang up on him. We're on the radio. I mean,
I understand. But it's the main point I'm trying to make with this is that you can't compare yourself to elected officials when it comes to mistakes. The standard for elected officials and people in power is higher.
Pete Hegseth.
You can't
who does
compare
Pete
him
Hegseth?
to yourself.
Who does Pete Hegseth answer to?
Trump.
Correct. Has President Trump said he did something wrong and should be let go?
No. I'm pointing out the false comparison.
I don't remember comparing myself to Pete Hegseth. I don't have no recollection of that. Tell me what I said.
Maybe it wasn't Phil Hegseth who y'all were talking about.
Pete Hegseth.
Pete, sorry. Regardless, it's it's a minor point. Let me just move on to this other thing I wanted to say with regards to the invasion that you keep referring to. Now, whenever I think of an invasion, I don't think the people on the other side are allowing. They have permission to come in. What I mean by that is, it's not an invasion. I know you disagree with the left, but if they are being,
what authority did Joe? Okay, hold on. Joe Biden let these 20 million in. What authority does the president of the United States have to let thousands of rapists and murderers into the country?
See, that's a unfair characterization.
No, it's not. MS-13, MS-13 and Trinidad de Agua rape and murder people, and Biden let them in. What authority does he have to let killers and rapists in?
But to say all those millions of people are...
I didn't say all of them.
You just didn't say that.
They're all criminals. They're all criminals.
They're not criminals.
They're in the country illegally.
No, I mean, well, I really don't think it's an invasion. So to apply the Aliens Act or whatever, it's kind of silly because it's not an invasion. Whenever I think of an invasion, I think of Pearl Harbor, I think of war, going on.
Pearl Harbor wasn't an invasion. Pearl Harbor was an attack. There was no invasion. Listen, Trinidad de Agua and MS-13 are terrorist organizations. If ISIS and Al-Qaeda sent thousands of ISIS and Al-Qaeda fighters into the United States, should the president remove them from the country, Al-Qaeda and ISIS, or not?
I mean, yeah.
Well, that's what he's doing.
Of course.
Trinidad de Agua and MS-13 are terrorist organizations.
No, see, Brian, that's another mischaracterization because a terrorist organization has to do a lot with political.
No, President Trump signed executive orders.
It has to do with philosophy.
President Trump signed executive orders declaring them terrorist organizations. That is U.S. policy. Official U.S. policy.
Because Trump says.
Yes, he's the president.
Trump can't be wrong, no.
No, but it's official. He signed the order.
So he can be, delusional and.
He's not delusional.
Against. He can declare war against like a Ukrainian or a Russian gang,
No, he can't declare war. Congress declares war. All right, appreciate the.
I'm sorry.
Appreciate the call. All right, let's see what else we got here. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh boy, you got a lot of libtards today out there.
Yeah, hold on one second. Let me answer all these phones. Okay. Yeah, well, it's okay. A lot of confused people. I'm trying to help them.
I don't know. Some of them don't. I agree with some of the guys. Even that did like the Greg too. What's his name? What's that other jerky guy that calls all the time? Jay and Renee. I think it's the same guy. They're not gonna. They just call. Greg just likes to. He likes to argue all the time. He's a waste of a call too. I don't even think he's a lawyer. Does he prove he's been a lawyer?
I don't know. I don't ask callers to prove. I just take their good word for it. No, I appreciate the call. All right. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh. Hi, I'm on with you?
You are on, yes.
Hey, my name is Tyler. I'm in Oklahoma.
Hey, Tyler.
According to my understanding of the Constitution, the 5th and 14th Amendments guarantee due process for everyone, no matter their legal status, the crimes they've committed, things like that. So it's my understanding that deporting these 200 plus people, including Kilmar, was illegal because it was not done after due process.
Well, your understanding is incorrect. With Kilmar, okay, he got his due process. You don't keep going to courts forever.
In the 3 days after he was picked up on March 12th?
No, he's been picked up many times over the years. And in 2019, he was ordered deported by a federal immigration judge. But things...
And at that time,
slow down.
He was granted legal U.S. residency.
No, but since then, something's happened. Okay?
He's
a member of MS-13. We know this for a fact.
That's not been proven.
Yeah, he's got got MS-13 tattoos on his fingers. Okay,
Prove it.
I saw it. His hand. President Trump showed
Prove it.
It's all over the news. How can I show you on the phone?
Evidence.
President.
I have not seen a single piece
well,
of
I
credible
can't. I can't help
that
it.
proves
Listen,
that-
I can't help that you're uninformed. And what you liberals do, whenever you hear the evidence, you say, "Well, prove it, show it. I haven't seen it." I can't mess around with that. Okay, the picture of his hand. Google it. It's all over the place. President Trump even showed it over the weekend. If you've got an MS-13 tattoos on your fingers, that's a confession.
A picture of his hand qualifies as due process?
No, there's more. He was arrested originally in a Home Depot parking lot with MS-13 members. Okay.
In 2019, he
There
was in
was-
a Home
excuse
Depot parking
me.
lot looking for work.
Oh, so no. He was in a Home Depot parking lot, picked up with MS-13 members. The local police has a confidential informant who's MS-13 who identified him.
That has been deemed.
By who? Chris Holland?
unreliable
No.
By the judge.
No, that's not true. He was identified by a confidential informant to the police that he was an MS-13 member.
An anonymous confidential informant.
Not anonymous
And
to us, but not to the court.
The cop that took that confidential informant's testimony
What is
was
wrong with
released
you?
from
Why do you
duty a week
have
later.
this? Why do you have this fetish for illegal gang
It's not
members?
about one person.
Excuse me.
It's not about one person.
He is. I'm not going to go through any more evidence. Okay, you know it all. You're just pretending not to know it and hoping I don't. The guy's MS-13. It's been proven in court.
He's not. He's not.
And MS-13 is a terrorist organization.
I agree with that.
When you're in a terrorist organization, you don't go through the criminal courts. That's over.
That's false. That's false.
No. If someone is a member of Al Qaeda or ISIS, which is the equivalent of MS-13, they can be picked up, even a U.S. citizen, and taken to a CIA black site anywhere in the world. It's the Patriot Act.
So the Patriot Act supersedes the United States Constitution.
The Patriot Act is a law. And the Patriot Act the Patriot Act allows the executive branch, Homeland Security, to detain and deport terrorists.
So laws can supersede the United States Constitution?
It is a law that was passed by Congress and signed by presidents and extended under multiple presidents.
Laws can supersede the United States Constitution?
It is part of the Constitution because it's a law.
A law is not part of the Constitution.
Yeah, it's equivalent to it.
The United States Constitution is no, it's
All right.
not.
I'm not going to go around in circles with dumbasses. I'm sorry to tell you. You notice what that guy did. Where's the evidence? I go through the evidence, and that's not. So he knows the evidence is pretending not. The Patriot Act is a law. Okay? All right, let's go back to the phones. I'm really going around in circles with lunatics with their talking points. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, this is Michael from Monroe, Washington. I wanted to comment on illegal immigration. It used to be that when we had illegal immigrants cross our border and invade the U.S., they went back home, period, point blank, end of story.
That's correct.
Now people are arguing to have, like you said, when Biden was president, we were literally invaded.
Correct.
And now people are looking for all these underlying issues outside of they entered the country illegally. End of story. That's it. Send them home, and that's it. There's no argument.
Yeah, especially
So, I don't know.
Especially when you are a wife beater, that disqualifies you from U.S. citizenship.
100%.
And I want to tell you my frustration. I talk to these liberals every day. They've got the same talking points. They watch me all the time. I've answered them 500 times in the last week. How many times can I go around in circles with the same talking point?
Yeah, it's difficult. And I think what it comes down to is I think the goalpost for the left has moved so far left. I mean, I haven't been super engulfed in politics my entire life. But to me, it feels like, especially I grew up in Seattle, Washington. My whole family's Democrats. When Trump hit the scene, all you heard was, orange man bad and this and that. And so being so young at the time, I didn't really understand what Trump was about. But now that I'm older, I have kids, I pay taxes, I 100% understand.
Well, here's the thing. Terrorists, which MS-13 is a terrorist organization, do not have constitutional rights or standing in court. It's no longer criminal. It's an act of war. Hey, I appreciate the call. I'll take some more calls. Let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Brian. This is Nick out of Baltimore.
Hey, Nick.
And good morning. I'm listening to this show. It's a great show.
Thank you.
But, these liberals calling in, I'm so sick and tired of the double standard of, they're using the Constitution. The Constitution, well, these people didn't have due process. They're criminals. They don't get due process. Number one.
Terrorists. They're terrorists. These are terrorists.
That's right. Okay, they're terrorists. Well, Saturday morning, I'm watching the NBC affiliate here. I just want to mention this very quickly. And they're showing a picture of Donald Trump with a picture of the guy's hands with the tattoos on them.
Mm-hmm.
All right? And they're saying, well, we can't independently confirm that this is real, that he's really part of MS-13, and that this is a real photograph. Yeah, I mean, it's like, what the heck is going on? The media is in cahoots with the deep state, and this is going over and over. Now they're starting this business with Pam Bondi and Pete Hegseth again and Cash Patel. They're trying to get control of the administration like they did last time, and Donald Trump is not letting it happen, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the bottom line.
I don't know. Yeah, you're right, Nick. Hey, Nick, I appreciate the call. The left know all these things we're talking about. They just want to stop Trump at something. That's it. It's total Trump derangement. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian. I just want to point out this thing.
Speak up a little bit.
Government.
You got to speak up. You got to speak up. I can't hear you.
All right. I want to make all this discussion is a moot point, and I want to summarize in this manner. The moment the individual was deported and the El Salvadoran, which is Bukele's government, took custody, international law takes over. In this case, we no longer have legal authority over him.
Correct.
So if Bukele wants to keep him until kingdom come, that's up to him. We no longer have any say, legal or whatever, in regards to him.
Correct. No, you're right. No, you're right on the money.
All this discussion is ridiculous.
It is. It's insane. It's insane. You make a good point.
Forget, and Brian, people forget what they did to the J6ers. They committed almost 2,000 people with no due process. And these are grandmothers, patriots, veterans, even active police officers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And no one did anything for them. We tried, right? Congress visited them in the detention hall. We couldn't do anything for them. And yet these people want to bring this guy back. And the fact is, it's out of our hands.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. No, you're right. Hey, listen, great call. Thanks so much. If you're on hold, hang in there. Now, this extra post-show is brought to you by Mike Lindell at MyPillow. And, of course, you can use my promo code Kane on all the specials at MyPillow.com. But I want to tell you, Mike Lindell has a new energy drink. It has no sugar, no caffeine. This can's green, so you get that, it's got green, and you're getting green screen effect. But you can see it on the screen. You can get the introductory 3-pack for free with my promo code Kane, and you get a can in each flavor: the lemonade, the green apple, and the blueberry citrus. It's a great energy drink. They taste great. Again, there's no sugar and there's no caffeine, so you don't get the crashes and you don't get the jitters. But I can't show them here because of the green screen effect. It looks like an invisible can in my hand, right? Like, look, ooh, a little magic. But if you go to MyPillow.com with my promo code Kane, get your free 3-pack of the Mike Lindell Rev 7 energy drink. All right, back to the phones.
You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Lori. It's about time you got sane callers 2 in a row. Everybody else has been on a short bus today.
Yeah.
I mean, why are they in love with criminals, the left? I don't get it.
Because they hate it's Trump derangement syndrome.
I mean, that poor lady, Patty, goes on all these shows, and they don't give a rat's butt about that poor lady suffered, lost her daughter, and Trump's been so wonderful to her. And, I feel so sorry for her. And like she says, I'm a Maryland resident. That guy doesn't care about me.
Mm-mm.
What's his agenda at the end? Is he thinks he's going to run?
Well, now if you joined up with MS-13, he'd care about you.
It's unbelievable. Don't they understand? Doesn't CNN, MSNBC realize that we looking back and we're saying they're loving criminals?
I think we should change MSNBC instead of MSDNC. Can we call them MS-13 BC? How about that?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just insane. What's wrong with these people? I'm not going to vote for you. And that David Hogg, that's a joke. He's a 25-year-old skinny little jerk who I heard during the Parkland shooting, he wasn't even there.
Well, he wasn't in the building where the shooting happened. We know that because it was the freshman building. All right, appreciate the call. I agree with I think everything you said there. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Brian. This is Frank from Texas.
Hey, Frank.
Hey, Brian. Yeah, I heard one caller here recently say that the J6ers weren't given due process.
Mm-hmm.
Enrique Tarrio got charged the most out of anybody, and he wasn't even there at the Capitol. Is that not telling of the seriousness of the situation, of the entire situation?
Well, a lot of the J6ers were not even allowed to meet in private with their attorneys. They were not. Their right to a speedy trial was denied. There were all kinds of things they were denied. Not all of them, but some of them.
You're saying that you don't think Enrique Tarrio is guilty of what's being accused?
I have no opinion on Enrique Tarrio. I have no opinion.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think conservatives. I don't think MAGA people should rally around the Proud Boys. No, the Proud Boys are the Proud Boys are probably feds, most of them.
Okay. Yeah. There was just some misunderstanding that I thought that he was given that charge and convicted of it. But I mean, I also wanted to bring up the whole checks and balances thing that you mentioned earlier, because I looked up the definition of it, and it says that they all say, all the definitions that I looked into say that it's to keep one branch from being too powerful.
Whatever you're reading is probably written by liberals, okay? If the president of if it's a crime, if it is a crime for the president to disobey the Supreme Court, okay? The process in our government, in our Constitution, is for the House to take up the issue, if they so decide, have hearings and a vote, and impeach him. An impeachment triggers a mandatory impeachment trial in the Senate. We've seen this happen several times, Clinton and President Trump, okay, a couple times. That's the process, okay, if he breaks the law. The Supreme Court is not his boss. The president does not answer to the Supreme Court. Through the impeachment process, he can answer to the Congress, and they can remove him from office.
Okay, so you're saying all the definitions that I read they're not original to the Constitution. They're not actually.
There's three branches of government.
What the Constitution says.
There's three branches of government that have separate powers. They are not co-equal branches. They do not have equal authority. In fact, the judicial has the least. Who has the most authority? The president. The president has more authority than anything.
Who does the executive branch / the president respond to?
No one. If he commits a crime, he can be impeached and then tried in the Senate, and that trial will end with a vote to remove him or not. We've had multiple impeachments, Clinton, Andrew Johnson, and Trump twice, and no president has been removed in the Senate trial. Wikipedia is written by liberals. Wikipedia is written by liberals.
Okay. But couldn't you make the argument then that we've always had a king
No.
in the United States then?
No.
Because
no, we have an election every 4 years. We have an election every 4 years.
Well, I guess you could say temporary kingship for 4 years.
No, because a president
right now.
Because a president who breaks the law can be impeached in the House and removed from office by the Senate. There's a process that could hold him accountable if he breaks the law.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I just, with regards to ignoring the ruling of a judge, a Supreme Court judge,
they're not his boss.
It's only been twice. It's only been twice that's happened, and in both of those instances, there was it's very, people would say, immoral. Well, one of them was the Trail of Tears. That was a product of the one of the times. That,
I don't know, but I know what's going on now. We have We have thousands of terrorists in this country that he's removing. By the way, thanks for the call. And it's not up for the Supreme Court to tell him he can't repel enemy terrorist. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Brian, can I respond to these idiots real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. We had a president of the United States just recently lost an election for 4 years, defied the Constitution of the United States by letting 20 million people into this country illegally, and he had his Secretary of Homeland Security lie in front of Congress for 4 years saying the border was closed. Everybody and his mother knew the border wasn't closed. 20 million, and they're worried about due process and one person. This guy totally, his job is to protect the people of the United States. Not only didn't he protect them with the invasion, but he flew them in here on our tax dollar dime.
Everything you said is true, Richie. What they're trying to do is a couple of things. The media, the Democrats, the judges. This is an insurrection against the president. That's part of it. This is a judicial insurrection. And also, they're trying to stop him from what he's doing, the deportations, the Democrats. They're assuming they're going to win control of the Congress in the midterms, and they're setting up an impeachment again. So there's a variety of things going on here.
Exactly right. And by the way, the reason the Supreme Court ruled, and they've twisted that ruling also. In other words, the one judge said no, he had to bring these people back, and he couldn't send the plane out that had the other Venezuelans on it. The Fifth Circuit didn't rule on it. President Trump said this is enough, went directly to the Supreme Court. The ruling was not against President Trump. The ruling was against the process of going back to the Fifth Court, because the problem is this. I believe the Supreme Court's going to rule in favor of President Trump. They're just kicking the can down the road. And it's just a little disgusting already how these Democrats can defend 20 million people that basically came here on a lie. They all said it was because they were persecution. No, it wasn't persecution. It was they wanted new jobs and an opportunity. But guess what? There are people in line. The people forget there are people that wait 10 years to get into this country.
Well, you know what? It's what President Trump said in the Oval Office a couple weeks ago. You never ask if Biden had the authority to bring them in, which he did not.
No, he broke the Constitution. He was the worst when it came to the Constitution. So when I hear that these people taking the Constitution, we had an illegal president there. Disgusting what he did to the American people. And President Trump's right. He tried to destroy this country, and he did a pretty damn good job. Look what's going on in Europe, by the way, because all the Muslims they let in, now they're sorry about it.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is that the president is supposed to defend the people, the citizens of this country, and not fly illegal people in all over the place and destroy quality of life all over this country. People with murderers, robbers, rapists, everything you want to know. If one of them gets drunk and kills somebody in a head-on collision, these Democrats are, oh, it's okay. He was here. He didn't get processed.
Yeah.
Take process and stick it. Have a great morning.
All right, appreciate the call. That's Richie the bus driver. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, this is Dave in Virginia.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah, I think that the illegals, unless they did a major crime in our country, should be sent back to their country and say, hey, let their judges decide if they was here illegal or not. They'll go in front of them and they'll say, yes, you were there illegal in the United States. Case dismissed. Next.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
stupid.
It
Paying
is
our
stupid.
tax money to try them.
It is stupid. I mean, these discussions are insane that we're having.
I know, it's horrible, man.
I mean, they're just completely insane, and it makes no sense whatsoever what they're arguing.
Yeah, I know it. I know. I agree with you, Brian.
I mean, I may be losing my patience with some of them, but what the hell? What am I saying? I mean, wouldn't you?
What are you going to do? I mean, yeah, they keep kicking a dead horse. That's awful.
I mean, how many times am I going to explain the same talking point? How many times? All right, appreciate the call.
Okay.
All right, you're all welcome to call in. The number's pinned in the live chat. This is the after show. And before I play this, don't forget, the after show is brought to you by Mike Lindell at MyPillow. And, of course, you can use our promo code Kane at checkout on any of the specials you see at MyPillow.com. Again, you can get your free 3-pack introductory pack of the energy drink, the Percal bed sheets, just $25, any size, any color. There's 11 different colors, and it's $25 no matter the size. So whether it's a twin, a single, a queen, a king, a California king, a split king, no matter what, just $25. Pretty good deal. I have these sheets on my guest bed. This is the premium MyPillow, just $19.98. Now this is the MyPillow. I have this pillow. It has the Giza cotton cover on it. It is spectacular. You'll love it. The MyPillow that started it all, just $17.98 with our promo code Kane at checkout. The 6-piece MyPillow towel set, just $39.98. I have these towels. They have all these new colors. So you can use my promo code Kane at checkout on all the specials at MyPillow.com. And MyPillow, of course, is bringing you the after show here. So let me pull this up with Nancy Mace. So Nancy Mace got confronted by this lunatic in a makeup store, and there's some new video came out that gives us the original confrontation. And I'd like to ask you guys, do you think Nancy Mace behaved properly here? Let me play it for you.
Nancy? Yes. When are you going to host a real town hall for the
Hold on, I got to turn up the volume and put my headphones on. Let me rewind it. Here we go.
Nancy? Yes. When are you going to host a real town hall for the
Okay, now this video is made from the perspective of the guy giving her the grief.
Nancy? Yes. When are you going to host a real town hall for the people?
Did you miss the 15 I had last year?
That wasn't a town. When are you going to host one this year?
I've already had one, and we'll have a dozen more.
The town hall you hosted this year was not a town hall.
It was a town hall, and
I do them every year.
Every year.
You want to keep
Are you
going?
gonna do any more this
Do you want
year?
to keep going and
Are you
keep
gonna do
harassing
it?
me?
I'm asking if
You
you're
could
gonna
have
have any
gone
more
to a
town halls
dozen
this year.
town halls last year.
I asked if you're doing any more this year. It was one simple question.
Yeah.
Are you doing a town
I've
hall
already
this year?
done one. I'll do
Are
plenty
you doing
more.
any more this year? It was a simple question.
You're always invited.
Okay, sweet. We'll look
And
out
by
for
the
an
way,
actual invitation.
I voted for gay marriage twice.
What does that have to do with
so
me?
I'm just saying.
See, the guy's getting really upset that she knows he's gay, right? That's like triggered him.
By the way, I voted for gay marriage twice.
What does that have to do
so
with me?
I'm just saying, it has everything to do with you.
You think everything about me has to do with gay marriage?
I do,
That's
absolutely.
your first stance when you
Yep.
speak with me?
Absolutely.
There's no other humane
If you want to get in my
conversation you
face
can
about
have
town
me?
halls, you should have shown
There's
up to
no
one
other
last
humane
year.
thing you can talk about me just saying, oh, I support gay marriage.
Yeah,
That's the
because
only
you're
thing
getting
you
in
have
my
to
face
say.
about a town hall. You
All I
could have
just
gone
asked you
last
one simple
year.
question from right
Would you
over
like
here
me?
is if you have any plans to have more town halls this year.
I have town
That was
halls
one
every year.
question.
I have over a dozen
Okay.
every year.
Great. That was my entire question. You didn't have to go
Yeah,
into the spiel about
you could
everything
have. You could have come to any of them last year.
And I'm
I had
asking you
over a
about this year, not
dozen.
2024.
Where were you the year before that? Or the year before that?
It was a simple
Oh,
question.
because you know what? Because you people on the left are crazy.
So I'm
You're
on the left.
absolutely crazy.
I'm absolutely
You are. And get out of my face. Goodbye.
You're insane.
You.
You're
Yep.
gonna be voted
Bye.
out so fast this year. I
I'm
can't
not.
wait for you to fucking
I'm
go
not.
into
I
the
won by
midterm.
so much.
You're a disgrace to this state. That's what you are. You're a disgrace. I asked you a simple question, and you just to go on this tirade and tell me you.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Get out of my face.
You.
Get out of my face. Try it again. What's your name? What's your name? What's your name? Yep, I sure did.
First thing you're gonna say to me is
Absolutely.
you a
Get
question.
the out of my face. Now.
You.
You couldn't take me on, baby. Stay away from me.
Okay. Now, I know a lot of people's initial reaction to this is that Nancy Mace behaved inappropriately. And maybe in a normal situation, that might be the case. I think she behaved completely appropriate. She is in this store by herself. Okay, it's a makeup store. She's confronted by a man who's being very nasty, recording her, being confrontational. She doesn't have anyone with her, not a friend, not a man, not security, not a police officer. And she's in a very threatening situation right here. She's a sitting member of the United States Congress and a woman, and she has an adult man being confrontational with her. And the way she reacted, I think, was appropriate because she had to give it to him to get him away. She really basically scared him off by being confrontational. So I know a lot of people are giving her a hard time for using the F word and everything. If you're a woman, you're confronted by a man like that out in public, it's got to be scary. So no, I think Nancy Mace did the right thing. I stand with Nancy Mace. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. What's your name?
Fuck this show. Fuck you, man, with your goofy ass Trump outfit, your MAGA outfit looking ass. You a joke, bro. You a fucking joke.
Yeah, nice language. Yeah, oh, he hung up. Oh, okay. I was going to try to have a conversation with him. I mean, my goodness. He held on for like 10 minutes for that. My name's Brian. This is Where MAGA Comes to Talk. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. If you're new to my channel, this is Where MAGA Comes to Talk. Make sure that you subscribe. I'm here every day. And as you can see, I take live calls. And these calls are 100% unvetted. When people, that's why calls like that make it on. And in the after show, I don't have to dump that language. I can let it go out. When you call in, I just put you on hold. Nobody answers the phone, and I take the call cold on the air. So all the calls are totally unvetted, and I do this every day of the week. And nobody else does this, okay? And if you take issue with anything I say, you don't have to call in and drop F-bombs. Call in. You can challenge me on anything I say or do on this program, because if you call, you're going to get on the air. And you can challenge me on anything I say, any position I have, and I welcome that. Now, you don't have to disagree with me to call in, but you can, okay? And and I always have the toll-free number pinned in the live chat when I'm on the air taking calls. So if you're new, make sure you subscribe. And if you're already subscribed, do me the favor of liking the video. And if you could make sure you're subscribed, because sometimes people think they are and not, because you watch me a lot. I get recommended in your feed. So check and make sure you're subscribed. And if you could share the video on your socials, that'd be great too. My name's Brian Craig. This is Where MAGA Comes to Talk. Thanks, everyone, for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.